Welcome to our 146th weekly webcast. Now, the way this weekly call works is I first discuss 7 new topics that can either help you take your career to the next level or help you become a better investor. It's about a half hour of new content. Then what I'll do is I spend the rest of the 3-hour call taking questions, and I'll give away my $999 MBA degree product to one person for free on this call. And I'll explain exactly how you can win this very, very soon. Now, over the past 146 weekly YouTube webcasts and the mini MBA office hours and MBA Q&A sessions, I've actually answered more than 10,000 questions live here on YouTube. It's been a blast. I loved every second of it. But I thought, wouldn't it be great if you could type your questions and I can immediately answer your questions based on my 10,000 questions I've already answered. So what I want to do quickly here is I want to introduce you to a product of mine called Powersearch. Now, the way that Powersearch works is if you go to the top of my website, which is harounventures.com, and type any question you have, you'll get an immediate answer based on videos I've made in the past. Like, for example, SPAC. A lot of people asked about that one recently. So if you type SPAC here, you can see a video about SPAC. If you type in any other topic that you want to learn about from a business perspective, like presentations, and you hit enter, there's a lot of videos I've done on how to give a presentation, as well as my MBA degree program. If you've signed up for my MBA degree program, you can click here to get immediate access to where I talked about presentations and many other topics in my 300+ hour MBA program. And I'm adding this year actually a ton of brand new content as well. I'm adding 30 to 40 new hours of brand new content per year, including advanced finance and analysis topics like options, swaps, that sort of thing, and then real estate, as well as arbitration and negotiation, because my students have asked for that. Ask and you'll receive. All right, so if you're getting value, and only if you're getting value out of this weekly call, please like, share, and subscribe. And let's now move on to the 7 news topics and other topics to help you take your career or investment portfolio to the next level. Let's begin, and thank you as always. All right, let's do this. Let's talk about how to legally know if a company might miss earnings by a lot, and how to understand how much the stock should go down on an earnings miss. Now, the way that we do this and the way that we know that a company might miss earnings by a lot is the first sign is this. The company's earnings press release has not come out yet, okay? Meaning the date for when they're going to report earnings. They usually issue 2 press releases, one saying, here's the day we're going to report earnings, and another one, the day of earnings, saying, here's what our earnings were. Okay, so the way it works is with many, but not all companies, with many companies, every 3 months, meaning every quarter, they issue a press release. And the press release just states what day they're going to release earnings. Now, if a company is going to miss earnings by a lot, then in that press release that they issue, the company is going to mention the earnings date and how much they're going to miss by. Okay, and this is called a negative earnings pre-announcement. And every company has a very different pattern for when they usually set their earnings date. For example, if company X usually sends out a press release a couple of days after the quarter has ended saying this, we're going to release earnings on this date, and here's the webcast address to join us for our earnings call. But you then notice that, oh my gosh, it's now been 1 week since the quarter ended, and there's no earnings press release yet about the date of the earnings call. Then it might be because the company's accountants are scrambling, trying to see, how much they're going to miss earnings by for that particular quarter. So it can take a couple days for the accountants at a publicly traded company to talk to their CEO, CFO, and the investor relations team and figure out what to say in a press release like this. given the tough economic environment, we expect to report revenue and earnings below our previously guided range. The earnings are going to be this probably, and the earnings date will be on whatever date they state. Okay, that rhymed, I know. And hedge funds make billions of dollars every year by tracking stuff like this very closely. Now, if the company's negative earnings press release comes out after the market closes, then quite often the stock immediately drops by the magnitude of the earnings pre-announcement miss. Okay, it drops immediately after hours. For example, if a company issues a press release saying that they're going to miss earnings by 20%, then what happens is the stock often gaps down about 20% per the gap here in this chart. Why does that happen? Well, it happens because professional investors have financial models, and quite often their target prices are based on a price to earnings multiple. So for example, let's say that an analyst at a mutual fund company called Fidelity has a price to earnings target of $100 on a company, and they base that on, let's say, 20 times earnings per share. This means that they think earnings will be $5 per share. So $5 per share times a price earnings multiple of 20 times implies a $100 target price. Now, if the company negatively pre-announces and says that they're going to miss earnings by 20%, then the analyst will update their financial model at the mutual fund as quickly as they can. And as the numbers filter through their income statement in their financial model, the $5 drops by 20% immediately to $4. Then the analyst thinks the company might still trade at 20 times earnings. And 20 times $4 in earnings results in a target price of 20% lower, meaning $80 instead of $100. So from a fundamental and valuation-based perspective, the analyst tells their boss, the portfolio manager, or their trader to sell the stock after hours if they can find somebody to buy the stock above $80. Now, as a very quick side note here from a technical analysis perspective, there's now what's called a gap in the chart. So what does that gap mean? Well, it means that in the future, like in maybe 3 or 6 months, if the stock is volatile, in the future, many traders think that the stock is oversold and must go up to close this gap before it can resume trading down. I know this sounds out there, but this strategy quite often works well for traders. Okay, so in my MBA program, I teach you about fundamental analysis, valuation-based analysis, and technical-based analysis because there's demand for it. Now, from a behavioral finance perspective, we have to understand and do research on historically how many days after a quarter ends does the company issue their press release confirming the date of their earnings call. And we also have to track if they've missed in the past, do they issue a negative press release 5, 6, or 7 days after the quarter ends? This pattern recognition works exceptionally well. So let's now talk about ways to find out if a company might miss earnings, okay, other ways. So on the income statement, we have revenue, right? It's at the top. That's why they say, what's your top line? Because that's revenue. And the bottom line is earnings. That's why they say, what's your bottom lines? So at the top of your income statement, you got revenue, which means how much a company has made after, this is crucial, after they deliver the product or service to a customer. Okay, you can't recognize revenue until you deliver the product. So quite often, customers pay well in advance of receiving products or services. And this cannot be classified yet as revenue by law, as the company has not yet delivered the product or service to the customer. Therefore, it cannot go on the income statement. Instead of going on the income statement, what happens is that revenue goes on the balance sheet as a liability called deferred revenue, okay? Because the company is liable to deliver the product or service to the customer in a future quarter. This is crucial, and hedge funds make a fortune by analyzing this, and you can as well. So if you notice that the company's deferred revenue historically grows at the exact same rate as revenue, okay, and one quarter you see that revenue from the income statement went up 15%, but deferred revenue on the balance sheet went down, then this means that there is a very high chance that the company is going to miss revenue next quarter. So how does this usually happen? Well, here's what happens. Let's say I work as a salesperson at a publicly traded company, and my quota for sales is $1 million per quarter, and we're almost the end of the quarter, and I'm way behind schedule. What I, as a salesperson, might do is I might call, and this happens all the time, I might call my best customers and tell them, hey, I need a favor. I'm kind of stuck here. Can I sell you and deliver to you more stuff this quarter, please? And let's say the customer says, okay, and I sell and deliver the additional products or services to them this quarter. Well, what happens is this. This likely means that the customer is going to spend less than usual with me next quarter, as they have their own budgets too. So what is the mathematics that you use to monitor the change in deferred revenue? Let's go through this. Well, it's called bookings. And we have to thoroughly understand and monitor this for any company that we invest in. And quite often, companies will make revenue and earnings, and the stock will go down, and we don't understand why. A lot of times it's because of bookings, and here's the math behind it. So bookings equals revenue from this quarter just reported, plus the deferred revenue on this quarter's balance sheet, minus the deferred revenue on the previous quarter's balance sheet. Okay, so bookings means revenue, which you can see there, revenue for this quarter in the income statement, plus the change in deferred revenue. Okay, so the last thing I want to say about this is on the topic of hedge funds is what hedge funds do is they rent satellites. And they rent these satellites to count the number of cars sitting in parking lots on the last few days of every quarter for companies they invest in. Now, if the number of cars is a lot higher on the last day of a quarter than usual, especially if it's a weekend, it means that the company might miss earnings. And I think it's only a matter of time until governments make this illegal, because it's not fair that large hedge funds get this information and retail investors like us do not. Now, if this was helpful, please like and subscribe, and thank you as always. All right, give me 1 second. Oh, this one's going to be fun. Get a little bit of water here. All right. It's always fun when we talk about Nintendo, right? All right. What can we learn from Nintendo in order to take our marketing strategy to the next level for a very, very low price? Well, Nintendo just re-released an older Zelda title for the Switch called Legend of the Skyward Sword. And the amazing thing is this. It's already the #1 best-selling video game title on Amazon, and it's been about 2 weeks since they released this. Now, what's fascinating about this development is that this Zelda title was released 10 years ago on the Wii. So the profit margins for Nintendo are off the charts. And no wonder Nintendo is the oldest tech company in the world. You know, they've been doing this for decades with older Mario and Zelda titles. From the 8-bit Nintendo, 16-bit Nintendo Switch, GameCube, etc. They've been doing this for years. And the best way for us to build our company or your own social media strategy is to build content once and then repurpose it or republish it on many different platforms. And what we humbly do at my company is I do a weekly YouTube office hours call on Thursdays, and I'm in week number 146 now. And then every single day at 9 a.m., what we do is repurpose the 7 best parts of the webcast over the next 7 days. We also repurpose micro content or smaller clips of my weekly webcasts on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and other platforms. Now, if you don't have time to sit there and post on different platforms at different times, you can do this for free using Hootsuite, and there's other platforms too. And so what will happen is when you use Hootsuite, you can tell it when to post stuff in the future. Now, you all know that I will never, ever be sponsored by anybody, as I want to put my students first always. But if you go to Hootsuite.com, which is a Canadian company I represent, that's where I'm from. If you go to Hootsuite.com, you can do this for free, meaning you can do 2 social media platforms and 5 free postings per month. And there's plenty of other free alternatives out there as well. Now, my father used to tell me to only take advice from successful people. So let's take advice from and look at what Gary Vaynerchuk does when it comes to repurposing content. And if you haven't heard of Gary Vaynerchuk, you should follow him on Twitter and all other platforms because he is the authority when it comes to social media. All right, so what we're going to do, and do this with me if you'd like, please, is we're going to do a search for Gary V. 86 pages of insanity, okay? This is a document that Gary V put out years ago to tell us how to repurpose our content, okay? And it's a presentation you'll find if you just scroll down here. And what he does is he talks about the content pyramid, meaning you publish a big thing at the top, like a YouTube weekly webcast, and then you repurpose that using micro content on different platforms throughout the day, okay? At different times as well. It's called pillar content. Also, if you go to the bottom of Gary Vaynerchuk's website, you can see which social media platforms, let me zoom in a bit here. You can see which social media platforms he uses and in which order of priority. Now, he changes the order every now and then. So as of now, the most important platform to publish on, according to Gary V, is Insta. Then we have YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. I can't figure out Snapchat. And then you've got LinkedIn, and then here is podcasts. And he used to have a logo here for social media platform method, but that platform method got MySpaced. It's less relevant now. So he no longer posts there often. And so he dropped the logo for method there. And I stopped as well posting on method. Now, my gut is that he's going to add TikTok to this icon list very, very soon. All right, let me get back on track here. So, quick side note. Side note, if you're bored in the house bored, as they say on TikTok, with your kids, I want you to pick up this game right here, okay? This is called It Takes Two. It's the highest rated game released this year on many platforms. So check it out. I think you'll love it. My son Dylan and I are almost finished it. It's amazing. And the price has dropped a lot since they released it. But the bottom line is, when it comes to our content strategies, it's that we can copy what Nintendo and Gary Vaynerchuk does so that we can work smarter and not harder when publishing our social media posts. All right, water time. This one's controversial. All right. Why is the United States government letting inflation get out of control? The Federal Reserve and the broader government officials in America, they see the exact same inflation data that we see. And with all the checks and balances in place, there has to be a reason for this disconnect. Something doesn't seem right. Now, in the early 1980s, inflation was out of control. And the Federal Reserve, what they did was they raised rates to 20% to fight inflation. Because if you have ridiculously high inflation, then you don't have an economy. Now, to be fair, inflation today is, of course, not as bad as it was in the early 1980s. And you all know I'm usually an optimist. But I think the US government sees the data, and the data implies that the Delta variant is worse than expected. Now, Governments want to maintain order, of course, and not have the public overreact. But other countries are starting to share data on just how effective the vaccines are. For example, according to the Times of Israel, the Pfizer vaccine, which I've actually had, the Pfizer vaccine is only 39% effective against infection. Okay? The Pfizer vaccine was given to most people in Israel. And the head of Israel's doctors union said, based on their analysis, the vaccine is less effective in preventing transmission, but it's easy to overlook that it's still very effective in preventing hospitalizations and severe cases. Now, for more details on this development, what you can do is you can check out the New York Times article on this as well, as the New York Times states that vaccines protect us against severe illness, but not against infecting ourselves or others, which can be spread to those that haven't had the vaccine and have a devastating impact. So we need to actually see more data first, of course. But what's really confusing for me is that the United Kingdom studies show that the vaccine is 88% effective versus 39% based on Israeli studies. Now, here in the United States, the Biden administration is apparently trying to make it law for all federal employees to get the vaccine. So, is this based on vaccine data that we're actually not aware of? And when it comes to Wall Street and investors, Wall Street strategists are doing their own research too, of course. And Goldman Sachs, for example, has just cut their growth estimates for the U.S. economy in 2022, given virus concerns. One data point doesn't make a trend, a couple does. Bank of America, another large investment bank, said that given the Delta variant, we could see a lot slower consumer spending this year. Now, we don't know for sure how big corporations are reacting to this until we get a couple of more monthly job reports. But from a behavioral finance perspective, the signaling from the U.S. government is that rates may stay low for longer than expected because of the unknown impact of Delta. And from a game theory perspective, if the Federal Reserve raises rates too early, given what they may know about COVID statistics, then it could have a much more devastating impact on the economy than if they wait, which is why I think they're waiting longer than expected to consider raising rates. All right. A little bit of coffee. I've been drinking Bulletproof Coffee for, I think it's 5 or 6 years now. And I find it really helps with my cognitive abilities a lot. And so, y'all know I'm not sponsored, but Bulletproof Coffee, it's a coffee made by a Canadian company where I'm from with no mold or preservatives in it. Because what happens is when you drink coffee, you get this pick-me-up right away, but the mold and preservatives drags you down over time. And what people also do, and what I've been doing, is I put some MCT or coconut oil in this as well. It helps me focus. The last thing I'll say about this from a biohacking perspective, and I love to biohack, is that for hundreds of years, people have been putting a tablespoon of butter in their tea or their coffee. And what this does is, I know it sounds out there, but it helps you to focus as well. It's worked for hundreds of years. It actually tastes pretty good too. I don't put milk or cream in it, so yeah. Woo. Okay. Doing a massive acquisition can be devastating for a company. For example, several years ago, LinkedIn purchased online education company Lynda. And at first, investors loved the deal, as LinkedIn got a really nice one-time boost or bump up in revenue. Then about a year later, investors expected this revenue growth to continue. But the year-over-year comparisons for LinkedIn were tough, as they got that one-time boost the previous year in artificial revenue growth from buying Lynda. So what happened was about a year after LinkedIn purchased Lynda, LinkedIn missed earnings and the stock got crushed. And there was blood in the water. And what happened was investment bankers started pitching LinkedIn as an acquisition target to large companies like Microsoft. And we all know that Microsoft now owns LinkedIn. And as a quick side note, I will never teach on Lynda, as LinkedIn approached me years ago and they asked me to make a course, but their lawyers wanted me to sign a massive contract that would stop me from teaching similar topics, even remotely similar topics, on any other platform, even if it's a new course. Plus, in the ed tech market, Udemy is Google and everyone else is Bing. Okay, back on topic. Back on topic to why large acquisitions can be deadly. So it's a double-edged sword because yes, the one-time revenue bump is great, but then if you don't do a massive acquisition every year, investors get upset as revenue growth slows. And this is actually why Microsoft does a massive deal or a collection of large deals every single year. You know, this year it's Nuance Communications that Microsoft bought. In previous years, it was ZeniMax Media, GitHub, Skype, Nokia, Mojang, Yammer, etc. And Microsoft would likely do even larger deals if antitrust let them. And remember, years ago, the Department of Justice, back in 1994, I believe, blocked Microsoft's purchase of Intuit. It's not just Microsoft, though. Other massive companies have to make huge acquisitions every single year. Like Oracle, for example, with their acquisition of Sun Microsystem, NetSuite, PeopleSoft, Siebel, Hyperion, BEA, and on and on and on. Now, it's a double-edged sword when doing really large acquisitions because, yes, buying versus building gives you a new product to sell. However, organic growth almost always contracts with these acquisitions in the long run, unless you're Facebook, which I'll discuss in another vlog. All right. I got to tell you, man, since I've been drinking one of these every day, just water, my productivity's gone up a lot as well. If you're ever tired and you're just not thinking clearly, make sure you drink enough water because we are 60% water. All right, next topic here. More than 40% of the population on Earth uses at least one Facebook product every single month. 40%. That's a staggering statistic. And from a business ethics perspective, I personally want to avoid spending money on Facebook advertisements, and I want to stop publishing social media content on Facebook platforms, and I want to stop using Facebook products, but I can't. When I was in Rwanda recently, for example, I had no choice but to use WhatsApp to communicate with my friends there. I just wish that the Department of Justice and the EU made the company break up and quickly too, because Facebook is certainly abusing their monopoly power with unethical advertising strategies that's created, unfortunately, the biggest differences or bifurcation in opinions and political affiliations in the United States. You know, America is at odds. You know, the largest gap in opinions since the wonderful hippie movement of the 1960s, when hippies would say, "Don't trust anyone over 30." Now, Facebook's algorithm knows if you're a Republican or a Democrat. And the sponsored stories or advertisements that you receive make you even more of a Democrat and even more of a Republican. And the issue is that the Department of Justice wants to break up many technology companies at once, which can take many, many years. But I wish that the DOJ focused first on Facebook and then the others. And to be intellectually honest and objective, Facebook is awesome at doing very, very large-scale M&A. And I have friends that work at Facebook, and over the years they've told me that Mark Zuckerberg is so strategic and long-term focused that when he makes a big acquisition like Instagram or WhatsApp, what he does is he lets the companies sort of operate independently of Facebook for 5 or 10 years. And then he tells those subsidiaries eventually to focus on revenue. But for now, for 5 or 10 years, just focus on subscriber growth. And then after 5 or 10 years, he then monetizes the acquisitions and he rebrands the companies like they've done recently with Instagram, which is a Facebook company. Now, in order for large-scale acquisitions to work, companies need to be very, very long-term focused. And they have to let the founders of the companies acquired be independent and grow without corporate bureaucracy and red tape messing up organic growth. Now, quite often what happens is this. Founders that sell their companies to larger companies stay for only about 1 year, and then they leave as they just can't deal with the bureaucracy and the red tape of the acquiring company. For example, how's that TPS report going? Now, bonus points to anybody that can tell me what movie this is from here. It's an oldie but a goodie, yeah. Okay, all kidding aside, the bottom line is that for now, we just can't avoid Facebook and their acquired companies until the DOJ or the EU breaks them up, as Mark Zuckerberg certainly understands how to do very, very large acquisitions better than any other tech company in the world. As Warren Buffett says, the longer the view, the wiser the intention. The Olympics is usually a massive catalyst, meaning a reason to invest in stocks from companies tied to the economies hosting the Olympics. Unfortunately, given COVID, this is certainly not the case this year with the Olympics in Japan. It's tragic. In fact, Toyota has even decided not to advertise during the Olympics in Japan, which is a shocking development. And investors can make a fortune investing in companies that benefit from the Olympics, as long-term investment themes tend to last much longer than we think. For example, before the 2008 Beijing Summer Olympics, I worked for a couple different hedge funds that did well based on investing in companies that would benefit from the Beijing Olympics. And this was the mother of all positive and then negative investment catalysts. Let me explain the positive catalyst theme first. So, infrastructure, commodity, and industrial stocks did incredibly well in the years leading up to the 2008 Olympics. And I remember when I worked for a hedge fund before the 2008 Olympic Games, I actually met with the CFO of United Technologies, UTX, which owns the Otis elevator brand. And the CFO of United Technologies told me that more buildings were going to be built in China over the next 5 years than the cumulative total of all buildings ever built in every country since the beginning of time. Think about that. Also, an executive at an engineering services giant, ABB, I think based in Switzerland, he told me years ago that every single year, China builds out the equivalent electricity grid infrastructure of the United Kingdom. Every year. So before the 2008 Olympics, stocks like Caterpillar, Komatsu, Petrobras in Brazil, Crompton and Greaves in India, etc., and many commodity companies did exceptionally well. And by the summer of 2008, commodity prices were ridiculously high, including the price of oil reaching almost $150 per barrel. So of course those aforementioned stocks did incredibly well as positive catalysts. Let me talk about the negative catalyst though. The negative catalyst was a couple of months before the Beijing Summer Olympics in 2008. What the Chinese government did was they decided to stop all industrial production in a 300-mile radius around Beijing so that the whole world wouldn't experience just how terrible pollution is in Beijing. And given the plethora of coal mines in China, and they're still opening new ones now, between 25 and 30% of all pollution above California, where I live, is from mainland China. Now, as a result of China closing industrial production in a 300-mile radius around Beijing a couple of months before the 2008 Olympics, as a result of this, and given the global financial crisis as well, the prices of almost all commodities except for gold fell off a cliff, and the aforementioned stocks became great shorts for the hedge funds. So the bottom line is, always look for long-term catalysts when you invest, because investment themes last longer than we think. Now, Beijing will become the first country to host both the Summer and the Winter Olympics, as Beijing is going to host the 2022 Winter Olympics. So now is the time to start looking at investing in international companies that could benefit from spending on infrastructure projects leading up to the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing, as opposed to investing in companies headquartered in China, as the Chinese government is unfortunately becoming more communist lately. China moving back to, and this is a separate topic. Let me get a drink of water here. Okay. All right. China moving back towards communism is a theme that investors just can't ignore. And it breaks my heart. But up until recently, for my entire life, all 50 years on this wonderful planet, for my whole life, China has been moving away from communism. You know, when I was born, for example, President Richard Nixon went to China. And this was a positive catalyst and signaled that China was opening up to international investors. But what's happening now is actually terrifying. It's terrifying for international companies to expand in China, given recent anti-capitalist developments and, even worse, anti-freedom of speech developments in China. And I actually expect many international companies to move their operations from Hong Kong to Singapore over the next decade, which means Singapore is a superb place to invest in the long run. Not only has China delayed IPOs, but they're coming after the tech sector with jabs at edtech. And in capitalist countries, many big firms are deemed too big to fail. But in China, with the case of Alibaba and other big companies, you're too big to succeed. And Sergey Brin, the co-founder and one of my heroes, the co-founder of Google, he decided to pull out of China 10 years ago because he was born in communist Russia, and he's against any crackdown on freedom of speech. And him pulling out of China 10 years ago is starting to make a lot more sense now. And I'm not advising all companies pull out of China, but not only are there human rights issues and a lack of freedom of expression in China, but China actually recently signaled multiple times that they aren't open for business, or they don't want international companies to prosper as much, because China, what they do is they want full control of its economy, which is terrifying also for investors. And the Chinese government is still dependent on exports. And I really do think their primary goal is to build up their own consumption-based economy internally, so that they're no longer dependent on other nations to prosper. And it's incredibly frustrating as an investor, because you have to deal with an anti-capitalist regime that is reverting back to becoming more communist. You know, we live in interesting times. Even with growth markets like cryptocurrencies, the Chinese government is trying to limit mining operations, and the government is creating their own cryptocurrency, which is certainly not ideal, as they'll be able to monitor exactly what each consumer spends money on. And the government in China already has the ability to use facial detection software to recognize the faces of several 100 million of its citizens. So why don't more international companies pull out of China? They can't. And I think Apple is an ethical company, but there's no way they can pull out of China quickly, given their contract manufacturing production facilities in China. But we can't just turn the other cheek because there are too many human rights violations in China. And for China now, it's not about growth, it's about control. And recently, Beijing signaled to the global marketplace that control comes before capitalism. And this should encourage investors and companies to be cautious about spending too much on production in China. And our best friend is India. It's the largest democracy in the world. And my vote is to spend more money partnering with India and less with China, until China signals that they care more about human rights, freedom of speech, and they have a more free and open market. And I really do believe that it's only a matter of time until we see another 1989 type Tiananmen Square incident. As back then, we were fortunate in 1989 with the Tiananmen Square uprising. We were fortunate that CNN had a camera crew in China. But today everybody has a camera crew in their pocket right here. And you can't regress when it comes to technology and freedom of the press. And Let's not forget that in late 2019, there were many people in Hong Kong protesting based on wanting more freedom. Those are my heroes. And what I'm about to say is controversial. But I think that Beijing could have controlled the spread of COVID a little bit faster. And I think the only way for them to stop all those protesters in late 2019 in Hong Kong was to have everybody mandated to stay home given COVID. And trying to stop freedom of speech in today's digital age is like trying to put your hand in a stream to catch minnows. It's too late, as everybody is a journalist now. And it's only a matter of time until civil unrest pressures Beijing to stop moving too far to the left. And I actually agree with economist Stephen Roach when he says that we could be, maybe, in the early stages of a second Cold War. I also agree with former CEO John Chambers of Cisco when he discourages his startups from, quote, doing business with unpredictable China. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Next up, let's move on to Q&A. Okay, and so as you all know, the way that Q&A works is you type your questions in the YouTube chat, and I answer the questions in the order in which I receive them. Yeah. All right, let me get a different logo in the corner there. Let's have some fun here. Hold on a second. There we go. All right, we're good to go. If you strive for perfection, you'll never reach it. That's a famous quote from Pablo Picasso. I was putting my shoes on here. So earlier this year, I got rid of my chair in my office because people were complaining that I sounded tired. And it wasn't just one person. Multiple people said it. And one data point does make a trend, but multiple does. So I got rid of my chair. So I stand all day long. I get my 20,000 steps in. I have my treadmill here as well. But I got to wear shoes because my dad had to get both his knees replaced. And by the way, if you want to find out what illnesses you might have later in life, you always want to look at your relatives, your older relatives. Yeah. Oh, quick little side note. If your older relatives, your parents, are from a country you've never been to, I highly recommend doing this. And I did this with my dad, who's from Egypt. If you've never been to that country, I've never been to Egypt, what you should do is get your mom or dad or aunt or uncle to use Google Earth and do a screen record and walk you through where they grew up, right? So my dad told me, this is where I used to get coffee. This is where I went to church. This is where I used to play with my friends. I used to buy dates here and all that stuff. Yeah, dates are big in China or in Egypt. Okay, cool. All right, time for questions. Let's do this. And one of my monitors went down, so I actually had to move it to a smaller monitor here. So give me a second to get set up here. All right, I'm going to kick it off with L. And give me 1 second, guys. My mouse died here as well, so I am going to put this on another computer over here, and I'm going to show you behind the scenes what the hell is going on too. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, hold on a second. Thanks for your patience. All right, I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go here and open up YouTube, and I'll show you how I monitor everything on my end. So on my end, what I can do, look at me buying time here. What I can do is I can monitor how healthy the stream is here, okay, using YouTube Live, which is free to use. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to go, and right here we can see concurrent viewers is 54. The stream is excellent, but I need access to the chat here. So I'm going to pop out the chat. Okay, here we go. Good. And then what I'm going to do is sort it here by live chat. Now, one last thing I'm going to show you, so sorry, is I always have 2 live chats open at the same time. And the reason is because I want one of them to actually be the most recent question people have asked. And I want the other one to be from the beginning, just in case somebody complains that there's an issue. So this one here is always real time, and this one here is at the top. All right, so let me go back now. Thank you everyone for your patience to my main view, and let's go through this together. Okay. And by the way, I'm using a Wirecast software. I teach you how to use this in my MBA program and lots of other software products. You can also use OBS which stands for Open Broadcast System, for free. I teach you how to use that in my MBA program. I also teach you how to use Twitch as well. Okay, here we go. Okay, and what you can't see behind the scenes is I'm switching over now on this monitor here to watch questions. Oh my God, I talk a lot. All right, so I'm going to kick it off now with Casper. Casper said, hey, Chris, can you please discuss FINRA 7 and 66? Is it a good way to start your journey in finance? Yeah. So FINRA, for those of you not familiar with it, is a financial accounting standards board that the government runs. And basically, before you can work at an investment bank and take calls from clients on a trading floor, you have to write a bunch of exams, including the Series 7, the Series 63, which deals with ethics, and there's a bunch of others. So I would say you don't have to personally pay to write those exams yourself, because when you join a big bank, they're going to pay for you to take it in anyway. Yeah, unless you see in the job description that you must have the FINRA 7 and 66. Last thing I'll say about this is, and this applies to everybody, the best way to answer questions in multiple choice, and I'm going to teach you right now how to get the right answer almost every time. Okay, so when you take these multiple choice tests, be it with FINRA or in a university, whatever, you have to think like a lawyer, okay? And what that means is this. You have to think, can I contest any of the answers? And so I can get, humbly, a lot of questions right on a multiple choice test without reading the question. How? Because you have to eliminate answers immediately that can be contested by a lawyer. Let me give you an example. Let's say that a question is, somebody says this iPhone case is always brown. Always? Well, if I look closely at it, maybe it's a slight different shade of orange. So that answer would be wrong. Or another one might be this. Nobody has ever died of eating almonds, right? So you can find an exception for that if somebody chokes on almonds. These are the ones I eat daily, by the way. Yeah. So anyway, if you have more questions about how to do well in tests without reading the questions, let me know. Thanks. All right. Next up, Andre. Hey, Andre, how are you? Greetings from Dallas. Hope you're doing well. Next up, I got M. Andrews, who said, hi, Chris and everyone. It's Madeline from Atlanta. Great to see you. Thanks for the emoji. Pearl, I hope you're doing well. Raj, good morning to you, and God bless you way more. I love your emoji. Sharif wrote, happy to see you, Chris. Likewise, Mitesh is saying, good afternoon, Chris from London. We have a global contingency here today, which is awesome. Hui is saying, good morning, Chris. I hope you're well. Likewise. My first question is, how do you start a technology company as a non-technical person? That's a great question. So what I recommend doing is finding and partnering with somebody that has those skill sets. So for example, with Steve Jobs, when he first wanted to start Apple, he realized that he's a great salesperson. God bless him. He's a great salesperson and a great marketer, but not the best programmer or techie. And so from a yin-yang perspective, he found somebody to complete him. He found Steve Wozniak. And so you need to find your Woz as well. You need to partner with somebody that's got technical experience. So how do you do that? Well, I recommend going to a website called meetup.com, meetup.com, and doing a search for events wherever you live. And these are free online or in-person events. Do a search, for example, on Riyadh and Python. If you live in Saudi Arabia and you want to find somebody that knows how to code Python, for example. And then you go to those meetup events for free and you can network that way. Okay. And you can also learn technology skills pretty easily online. You can go to Udemy, for example, take courses from Angela Yu, who's the best teacher on the planet, about how to program or create websites, that sort of thing. Anybody can do it now. Yeah. The barriers to entry are non-existent. All right. Next up, Hui wrote, what separates the top 10% of startup CEOs from the rest? Yeah. So a CEO and an entrepreneur and a partner at a law firm or venture capital firm, they all have one thing in common. They can sell. That's what a CEO is. They're a salesperson. And if you can sell products, obviously you could make CEO. But if you can sell yourself, you can also make CEO as well. So the bottom line is you have to know how to sell and be able to network a lot aggressively. And if you want to learn more about how to network to get anything you want in business or in life, just go to my website, harounventures.com, and scroll down and download my free networking book. Okay. All right. Next up, Mike wrote, "Hey, Chris, do you have any thoughts on the Robinhood IPO? Thanks." Yeah. So today at 9 a.m., which is in 9 minutes, if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see a 10-minute vlog I made on the Robinhood IPO. Okay, so Robinhood, it's a finance company. It's controversial as well. And if you want more details on the IPO, a lot more details, and how to read the IPO document and how that particular IPO worked from an investment banking perspective, then just at 9 a.m. my time, which is in 8 minutes now, just go to my vlog and watch it. Thanks. All right. Next up, Shihan wrote, "Hey, Chris, hope you're well. Likewise. I just wanted to check if you're on the Slack channel, meaning the one in the MBA program. And if so, under what name can we tag you to ask questions?" Yeah, thank you. So for those of you not familiar with that question, in my MBA program, there's a Slack channel that tons of my students use to network with each other. That's just for students. I don't go there. That's just for students. If you want to ask me questions, you can ask me in the program. Just type your questions after all 1,000 or so videos in the program, and I usually answer within a day or two. Yeah, and I use a product called Freshdesk to do customer service that way, and every single question is answered by me. Yeah. Next up, I got Manas. Manas wrote, "Good morning, my dear mentor." Good morning to you as well. I hope you liked my plug for India there when I was talking about we should invest in India instead of China. Manas from India. Manas wrote, "I'm shooting a new course, and this course has been specially designed and made for the students who are going to learn in your Rwanda school." Thank you. Appreciate that. And then Manas wrote, "Hope you include this in the curriculum." Thank you. Believe it or not, all of my courses will be 1,000,000% free for your Rwanda school and the schools that you'll be making in the future. This is what you taught us. And then you wrote, "Thank you. God bless you. Just paying back as much as possible. You make 195 schools in 195 countries, and I'll teach in all of them. Hope you allow me." Yeah, absolutely, and thank you. I appreciate that. And the way it's going to be done is it's going to be done using online courses as well. So we'll certainly include yours, and thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Fred is here saying, "Hey, Chris, I'm glad to see you. Great to see you as well, buddy. Hope you're doing well." Harsh is saying, "When will the market crash?" Yeah. So I worked years ago at a hedge fund called Pequot. And the guy that started Pequot, brilliant man, God bless me, just died from pancreatic cancer, Art Sandberg. He used to tell us never to try to time the markets because you can't. And I remember it was back in 2006 when we were pitching shorts to him in the home builder sector. You know, Lennar ticker LEN and KBH ticker KBH. And our thesis was that the market was overvalued and there's a real estate bubble. And he stopped us, mid-sentence pitching the shorts. And he said, "Son, I've been around long enough to understand never to stand in the way of insanity, because markets peak and markets trough, but you can never time it. So you got to be very, very long-term focused." So what happens with a lot of hedge funds is when the market sells off 5 or 10%, they just wait. And once it sells off more than that and breaks all technical support levels, then they pile on the shorts as well. Yeah. All right. Next up, I've got, if I missed anybody, just paste it again, please. Your Supreme Business Solutions wrote, "Greetings of peace, beloved family. Blessed to be here. Likewise, and thank you." Thank you. Okay, cool. Jamin, how are you, man? Oh my God, dude, it's been a while. I hope you're doing well. I miss you. I hope you're doing well, and I think you're a doctor in New York City, right? You're my MBA program as well, and I know you've been jammed, and God bless you for everything you've done for COVID. Yeah. Okay, next up I got Gregory. Hey, Gregory, it's been a while. Gregory is from Europe. Gregory wrote, "Chris, is there a way to search by class number in the MBA program?" Yeah, so I don't have that right now, but if you go to the curriculum of the MBA program, like if you go to learn learn.harounventures.com. Again, that's learn.harounventures.com. You've got the entire curriculum there. And when you click on the MBA program, and you can always just do a Control F to search the curriculum, or you can go to my website and use Powersearch, as I showed earlier, to search on any topic. Yeah. And every single lesson has advanced closed captions, which costs a lot of money, but I think it's helpful. Yeah. So you can always do a search and get immediate access to where I talked about specific words in all lectures. Yeah. All right. Next up, Manas said, what are you doing on Clubhouse? Do you think it's the future of all these social media platforms? Gary Vaynerchuk believes in Clubhouse a lot. It's the only audio platform where you can even talk to a president. No, it's pretty cool. It reminds me of when Barack Obama used to do his Reddit AMAs, or Ask Me Anything. You can now access Audible instead of just text-based with Reddit. Yeah, I'm a fan. I haven't done much work on it. I'm on it right now. I am. I haven't leveraged it yet, not yet. But if I do leverage it, it's going to be through me repurposing content like I always do. So, for example, if you go to my website, you'll see that I have if you go to the menu in the top right corner, I have a podcast as well. And the podcast is just this weekly call, but audio based. So I repurpose like Nintendo does. Yeah. All right. All right. Next up, Yash wrote here. Hey Chris, I just came here to get enlightened and drop some love. You'll certainly get enlightened by all the wonderful people we have here from all over the world, and lots of love from me to you and everybody, and thank you. And thanks for that emoji there too. Raj is correct. The movie that I talked about with that image of that dude who looks like a consultant from McKinsey carrying a coffee cup, that was Office Space. Yeah, great movie, an oldie but a goodie. And if you're curious about what it's like to work at a consulting firm, just watch the movie Office Space. Obviously, it's a little bit stretched, but it's funny as well. It's light. Yeah. Next up, Helsing said, interesting perspective. You're very knowledgeable. Thanks for speaking up. Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't wing these things, though, to be honest, transparent. Here's how I come up with the 7 topics. So what I do is every Monday night, I come up with the 7 topics. I send it to my marketing team, and they email out, hey, during the weekly webcast, we'll talk about these 7 topics. And then I take all day Wednesday, and I script everything from scratch. I do research on it from tons of different publications. And based on my experience, it has to be fun for me to talk about, otherwise I don't do it. And then what I do is also on Wednesday, yesterday, I put everything on PowerPoint for scripting, okay? And I have a pedal that I click on, which will go through the slides. I read right here, okay? And then I also create another PowerPoint presentation with the slides here, and I use a software product called Wirecast to make it work, sort of. Yeah, it's fun though. And we're trying to push the goalpost out here and eventually make the user experience for you better than CNBC or any media channel. The difference between those other media channels and my channel here is that I will never take advertisers. I will never do any sponsored stories or anything like that because, and yes, it's hurt my growth for my YouTube channel a lot, but I don't care because I always want to put you, the student, first. The second I start taking advertisements is the second that you become biased and you don't put the student as the customer first. You know, for example, if Microsoft sponsored my channel, I couldn't say negative things about Microsoft. I want to be open and honest always with all of you, always. Even if it hurts my growth, I don't care. It's not about the money. All right. Next up, Schlock wrote, hey, Chris, I've been working on a technology platform in the education technology space, but I'm not sure if my idea can be game-changing and lucrative. What do you suggest should be my next step? It's a great question. So, failing to plan is planning to fail. And most people don't write a thorough business plan before starting a company. I recommend you write a thorough business plan. And if you complete the business plan, then it's probably a good business idea. If you don't complete the business plan, it's because you discovered something along the way that tells you that, hey man, there's too many risks. So what I do is in my MBA degree program, in the 3rd semester, and anybody can sign up today by going to harounventures.com. But in the third semester, I have what's called a venture capital boot camp. And based on my experience working in venture capital for years, as well as being on panels, judging student business models at Stanford University Graduate School of Business, etc., I take all the greatest hits of the stuff I've learned, and I teach everybody how to start a company and how to write a business plan. And I do it in such a way that I don't want you to spend a penny on the company today, tomorrow, or ever. I want you to write the business plan, and if it works, I teach you how to raise money from high net worth investors. If you have a lot of money, then cool, spend your own money to do it. But I want you to be happy and not stressed at home when you start a company. Yeah. And for more details, just go to my website, harounventures.com. Thanks. All right. And in that, in the venture capital boot camp, it's very, very long, but people say it's their favorite part of the program. And what I do is I ask you a gazillion questions. There's tons of exercises as well. I leave no stone unturned. I cover every qualitative and quantitative aspect of business, and I give you plenty of templates as well. And I have a course version of this on Udemy as well and on my website, but it's a lot shorter. You know, the Venture Capital Bootcamp in my MBA degree program, like a lot of the content in my MBA program, is just more, it's longer. Yeah. All right. Next up, Lucas, I wrote here, is it better to wait with buying ALTS alternatives, I guess, after Bitcoin breaks 40,000, or should I buy now? Unfortunately, I didn't buy on the dip, and now I feel FOMO. And FOMO, I guess, stands for fear of missing out. Yeah. So I would say never buy because of FOMO, any investment at all. You know, Warren Buffett, he said once that the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. You got to buy when everyone else is freaking out. Always. Always, always, always. Otherwise, what happens is if you buy a crypto or a stock that everybody else owns and everybody loves, there's not that many incremental or new investors to push it higher. You got to buy when it feels awful. And that's a weird thing to say, I know. But when the stock or crypto is falling it feels like catching a falling knife, the chart looks awful, looks like death, it's oversold. That's when you buy. And the most successful investors and entrepreneurs out there are incredibly unemotional when they invest and when they manage a company. Because if you let your emotions come to the marketplace with you when you're investing or starting a company, it's going to mess up your head. And it's going to make you buy at the worst time and sell at the worst time. That's why you got to be long-term focused and buy when everyone's freaking out. And let me actually go over here and see if I can show you something. Actually, instead of taking you there, just go to my website, because I've covered this before. Go to my website, harounventures.com. At the very, very top, just do a search on technical analysis and VIX, VIX as well. And you'll see videos I make on that. The bottom line is, when the VIX spikes to an all-time high, it's going to feel like the world is ending. That's your opportunity to back up the truck and buy. And I'll be talking about the VIX in more detail in my upcoming complete options course coming out this fall. But the VIX basically is a measure of what the market believes volatility is going to be on the S&P 500. High volatility means fear. So when the VIX is high, you buy. That rhymed. And low, vice versa. Yeah. Just be a contrarian. And I don't want you guys to invest in any companies without doing an investment right up first, a one-pager at least, which I teach in my MBA degree program. And in my program, I give you a ton of templates or arrows in your quiver or tools in your toolbox, whatever you want to call it, so that you can work smarter and not harder, and you can thoroughly analyze every investment before you put them on. Yeah. All right. Okay. Next up, James wrote here. Hello, Chris. Just want to stop in and say hello. Hey, James. How are you, man? Good to see you. My brother's name is James. Jamie. Yeah. All right. He's my favorite person in the world. And next up, Sharif Ahmed wrote, Chris, I remember less is good, and reposting the content might not be a good idea, or repetition, I think, makes it work. Yeah, less is more. Yeah. When it comes to writing articles or sending emails, less definitely is more, bite-sized, because it's hard for us now our brains have been rewired because of the internet. It's hard for us to sit down and read 5,000 words editorials in magazines or newspapers, or even finish books. And so bite-sized segments are always helpful. Yeah. All right. Next up, Lionel, hey Lionel, wrote, is the accredited business advisor ABA necessary after completing the Haroun MBA program? Yeah. So I decided that I'm not going to accredit my program ever. I can do it, but if I do it, people will tell me what to teach you, and they're part of the problem, not the solution. The problem is business schools don't teach you the most important stuff to make you successful, like how to manage your own money. They teach you how to manage other people's money. They don't teach you how to start a business. Ask anybody that has an MBA. Ask them, did they teach you how to start a business? They don't. I have an MBA from a good university. I have a lot of friends that went to HBS as well. What they teach you is stuff that was relevant last century. Plus, it's expensive. It's like $100,000. For mine, it costs next to nothing. And there's a 30-day, 100% money-back guarantee. Yeah. I'll never let any governing body tell me what I can and cannot teach because they're part of the problem and not part of the solution. And I believe that if I did that, I'd be hurting my students. Yeah. Okay. And I believe that only 50 universities are going to be in existence by the time I pass away, 8 million years from now. I think a lot of people are going to think, my gosh, why should I go to university? Why should I spend $100,000 to get an education, undergraduate education, a Bachelor of Arts, for example? What is that doing for me? I have all this debt. It takes me the rest of my life to pay back that debt. Yeah. All right. Sanyam wrote, good morning, Chris. I'm part of your multiple courses over Udemy. Thanks for the amazing content. I appreciate that. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks. And I just updated the cryptocurrency course on Udemy as well. Yeah. And Lucas wrote, how do you evaluate a team staying behind some crypto project? Is there some score metric? Yeah. So it's a little bit tricky to do this, but when you analyze a person, especially the CEO founder, you want to make sure that they can sell, right? So you want to make sure that that they excite you. And the reason I say that is because their business model is going to change. All business models change for early stage companies. And some of the most sophisticated high net worth investors and venture capital firms I partner with in the past, they've taught me that the jockey is more important than the horse. So you want to make sure you invest in people that get you excited. And they get you excited about their products or services, because if they don't get you excited about what they're selling, they're not going to get their customers excited as well. So that's one way of many on how you assess a management team. You also want to look at their previous experience. Have they had an exit before? Have they started companies before? For example, investing in Litecoin or Ripple and a lot of these other great cryptos, the management teams have started companies in the past. They have a lot of experience. You want to understand their past experience as well. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Hidden Creatures wrote, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Likewise. How do I enter the giveaway? Yeah, so I'm going to be giving away to one person my $999 MBA degree today. And I do this during most webcasts. And the way it works is this. If you've already purchased the program, please don't participate in what I'm about to tell you. But at some point during this webcast, I ask you all a question. And the question is based on what I taught in the first half hour of the webcast, meaning the 7 topics. And whoever answers the question correctly first, okay, over chat, wins. Okay, and I'll do that later on today. Yeah, thank you. Okay, all right, cool. Next up, Alex wrote, what kinds of technical skill sets and projects can I learn and differentiate myself during interviews? Yeah. Oof, I'm not sure how to answer that. What I would do is, if you want to work at a certain company, look at skills that the executives have. So when you go to LinkedIn, when you scroll down in LinkedIn, right before the recommendation section, you can see skills, right, where people have 99 pluses beside whatever skill it is. And go to whoever you're interviewing with's LinkedIn page and find out what skills they have there. And maybe learn those skills as well if you want to. So for example, if you want to learn Python and you notice that everybody you're interviewing with knows how to code Python, then you can go to Udemy's website, for example, and take courses on how to code or create using Python. Yeah. All right. Next up, Alex wrote, hey, Chris, I'm trying to get into mergers and acquisitions, financial due diligence area. Doing deals is my career goal. I have limited audit experience, but some exposure to equity research and financial statements. Yeah. So what I recommend is setting up a ton of informational meetings. And what you can do, by the way, is in my MBA program, obviously I teach you a lot more about how to network, but I'm giving away my complete job course today to everybody. So, and the complete job course will teach you how to position yourself in interviews, also how to write a resume and LinkedIn profile, network, and all that great stuff. To get the complete job course for free, please go to the following website, all lowercase, harounventures.com/complete job. Okay, that's all one word, complete job, all lowercase. It's free. All right, why is it free? I want to help, it's fun. All right. And what happened was in March of last year, March of 2020, my business picked up a lot and I felt guilty and it was wrong. Plus I wanted to help. So what I did was I gave away 1 million of my courses over a period of 3 days all over the world because I wanted people to stay at home and learn from home and stuff if they're bored or in the house bored. And by doing that, what happened was there was an explosion of customer service questions, which hurt my ratings, but I don't care. I just want to help. Yeah. All right, what are we here for? All right, next up, Naveed wrote, if it's a good time to enter is it a good time to enter digital currency now for short and long-term focus, and how to learn about investing in these, any course you suggest? Yeah, absolutely. So in my MBA program, I have an up-to-date version of my cryptocurrency curriculum and much, much more. Or what you can do is you can take my complete cryptocurrency course if you want to, where I teach you over 24 hours everything you need to know about cryptos. I did so much work on this course. I even went to the Czech Republic to rent a data center for my trailer. It's kind of a crazy story, but when we did that. When we did that, I had to sign all these documents stating that as we filmed in the data center in the Czech Republic, if there was a fire, you have 30 seconds to get out of the building. Otherwise, chemicals will drop to put out the fire and kill you. Yeah, that's not up to code in most countries. But also with my cryptocurrency course, which I spent 6 years of my life working on it very hard, I hired this guy who was so amazing to double check my work and help out. He was so awesome. This is crazy. He was so amazing that after I published the course, I got a knock on my door. And I went to answer the door, and it was somebody from the NSA, National Security Agency. And he was doing a background check on this person, who I won't mention. He was doing a background check on this person, I think because the NSA wanted to hire this person. That's how great that dude was. That helped me out, yeah. So anyway, and cryptocurrencies, the essence of cryptocurrency or cryptology, the way it's secured using something called SHA-256, which is a secure algorithm used on many cryptos, but not all, that was actually created by the NSA as well. Yeah. Yes, I was terrified when I got that knock on the door. Yeah. And then they asked for help. I was like, of course, what can I do to help? Yeah. Okay. All right. And if they're watching, yeah, that's right. All right. All right. Next up, Marin, how are you? Marin is one of my amazing MBA students. She's from Kenya. She lives in the United Kingdom now. She's making an incredible pharmaceutical startup right now, and I'm actually building a school with her next year in Kenya in honor of her mother. who's watching and is very proud of you right now. Good to see you. But Marin wrote, hi, Chris and everyone. Hope you're doing well. Likewise. Great to see you. All right, next up I got Lucas, who wrote, I think I'm bad at networking. My questions are never answered here or any other group. I'll take a look into a book. Yeah, I've answered every question of yours here. Yeah. I think if I miss a question, just paste it again. If you enter in a hyperlink, YouTube won't let me answer them. It blocks it for some crazy reason. Yeah. But when you say bad at networking, it's the only person saying that, and I say with love in my heart, is you. Perception becomes reality. I think, therefore I am. Yeah. Read my free networking book from my website. I promise you it will help. It will. Yeah. It's free. Or take my free complete job course too. All right. And it takes practice too, man. Like, it takes practice. You gotta put yourself out there. It's like screaming into the wind. It's you gotta run to your fears. If your competition, everybody is scared of networking, and if you run towards your fear, and you learn how to do it effectively, you'll take your career to the next level. It's kind of like presenting. Like, I used to be terrified of presenting. I was so scared, man. So I did something a little bit out there. I actually went into the McGuire Correctional Facility here in San Mateo. It's a jail. And I did it through my church. It's not a religious thing. But what I did was I started giving speeches there just to helping out these poor kids with deadbeat fathers. There's no such thing as a deadbeat mother. Yeah. Run to your fears because your competition won't. And condition yourself to enjoy your fears. So I enjoy presenting now. Before I didn't, but you condition yourself. I think, therefore I am. Which is actually a good line now from a new Billie Eilish song. And her new album just dropped too, I think, yeah. All right, next up, Ganesh wrote, hey, Chris, what do you suggest for MBA students who don't have experience in finance? How do you get a job as a financial analyst? Can I create a portfolio? How can I show my analytical skills? Yeah. So what I recommend is learn the basics of finance and accounting by taking my MBA program. If it's not helpful, you get your money back. You can binge watch it in the first 30 days, get your money back as well. I don't care. And then network like crazy. Now, in terms of showing your work, what you can do is when you go to informational interviews, you can bring a one-page write-up. Okay. And in my MBA program, I have 11 brand new templates for you to create and bring to interviews to help your interviewer. Because in business and when it comes to interviews, you always have to put your mind inside the mind of the person interviewing. Think like them. And people in business are usually motivated by three things as follows. Number one, they want to make more money. Number two, they want to get promoted faster. And number three, they want to kind of enjoy what they do. And so if you can help with one or two of these three criteria in your informational interview or your real interview, then your chances of getting that job go up materially. So how do you help? Well, you do write-ups that will help people either enjoy their job more, get promoted faster, or make more money. And it's something I teach in a lot of detail in my MBA program as well. Yeah. Give and you'll receive. It's prophetic and it's been true since the beginning of time. Yeah. All right. All right. Yeah. And in terms of creating a portfolio, I give you plenty of tools in my MBA degree program that I developed when I worked for some of the most sophisticated hedge funds in the world and based on my experience at Goldman Sachs. I provide you those tools. They're Excel-based, yeah, with no macros. I don't believe in code when it comes to Excel because of vulnerabilities and viruses. Yeah. All right. But you can certainly show a portfolio based on my template I give you. Yeah. The only thing I ask is that when you use my templates, anybody, if it's a Word, Excel template, whatever, I want you to all go up to File Properties, okay, for the file, and change from my name to your name because I want you all to get the credit. And one thing that investment bankers have done and still are doing now these days, which is crazy, is they'll create a financial model of really classified stuff based on maybe the merger of acquisition of one company over the other. And what they'll do is they will save the properties, when you go to file information or file properties, as the name of the company getting acquired. And then they'll work on another deal, and that same name will be there in that same spreadsheet. It happens all the time. changed the name to you because I want you to get the credit and not me. And you can all reuse all my stuff I've given you forever. It's not mine, it's yours. Okay. Next up, Garbett wrote here, when is your real estate course coming out? Will it be in your MBA degree program? Yeah, it'll be a much more elaborate version. Will be in the MBA degree program as well, consisting of personal real estate, like buying our house and how mortgage works and all that stuff, as well as how to buy commercial real estate if you want. And this is an elective, right? You don't have to take that portion of the program. Or buying buildings for investments. I bought a couple buildings over the past year in London, Ontario, where I was born. And it's just passive income. It's fun. Yeah. And when you look to buy a house or an apartment, this is out there, but try to see if there's an extra room, if it's a house, whatever, that has a separate entrance so that you can rent it for Airbnb so that your entire mortgage is covered by the Airbnb person that's renting your place. That's what I did years ago. This room here years ago, when I was waiting for an exit from one of my venture capital investments, this room here paid for the mortgage of my house because it was Airbnb. There's a separate entrance. I then turned it into my studio. Yeah. My wife wasn't happy about that because I took down all the beautiful crown moldings and all that stuff too. Yeah. All right. But the real estate course is coming out soon. But first, I'm focused entirely on the options course. Yeah. And options is a fascinating topic because the global stock market, if you take the size of all companies publicly traded globally, the size of all companies that are on stock markets is tiny compared to the options market and derivative market. The derivative market is 6 times bigger than that. And the reason is because when you buy stocks, you're just trying to make money usually. But when you buy derivative or options-based products, you're trying to make money or you're trying to protect company by hedging yourself, which I'll explain from scratch in the course. And what I'm doing is, it's the most ambitious thing I've ever done in my life when it comes to education and courses. But what I'm doing, this is kind of out there, but I've got a bunch of bricks as well. And I'm humbled to say I got the top, I hate saying this, but I got the top grade in my class at Columbia MBA school in options, right, that course. But I didn't really understand it. So what I'm doing now is I'm teaching everything from scratch using bricks. So that what happens is when I teach you a couple of concepts about options and we build on it, you're like, oh my God, I can do this. And all of a sudden you've got the Lego Death Star or something. Yeah, it'll all make sense. Yeah. I got a ton of other props as well on my floor. You might think I'm neat and tidy. I'm not. There's a method to my madness, but I've got props everywhere here. Yeah, but I'm happy. All right, next up, Marin wrote here, Chris, can you please explain again what a short is? Sure. And when and why do hedge funds use it? Yeah. So let me first explain what a hedge fund is very fast. If you think of your backyard, okay, and you want to protect your house, people put shrubs or hedges all around your house, right? And in medieval times, they used to put up big walls as well. And so a hedge protects your house. And that's why a lot of hedge funds, like this one hedge fund I worked for called Citadel, that's the name, it's like Citadel, it's like a moat to protect capital, okay? And there's another great hedge fund called Fortress as well. And so hedge funds, their number one goal is preserve and protect capital. Their number two goal is to make money. I know it sounds weird, but the way it works is if you want to invest in a hedge fund, you have to be an accredited investor, meaning have a liquid net worth of $1 million or more. And so very wealthy people, they want to preserve their wealth. They want to protect it, in case the market's down 50% one year. And so what hedge funds do is the number one rule of hedge funds is don't lose money. The number two rule is don't lose money. The number three rule is try to generate alpha, which means try to outperform benchmarks and whatnot. Now let me explain what a short is. And I'll explain the difference between a short and a put as well quickly. So a long is when you buy a stock. Think about American football, going long. Okay, that's a long. The opposite of going long, to try to score a touchdown, the opposite of going long is going short. So going long means you buy a stock. Going short means you're doing the opposite. You're betting that the stock is going to go down. And the way it works is as follows. And I've started my own hedge fund. I've worked in the hedge fund market over the years. But let's say that let's say you want to short a stock. What you do is you enter in your short order on a computer, or you call your trader or talk to your trader, which is what I did. And then what the trader does is the trader will say, okay, before you short it, let me go and see if I can borrow those shares first. Okay, and this happens fast. And the trader will look around or use automated systems or talk to their prime brokerage firm like Goldman or Morgan Stanley, UBS, whatever. And they'll say, what is the cost to borrow those shares? And if the cost to borrow them is too high, they don't short the stock. Okay, and basically and the way it works is follows. Let's say that I work at a big mutual fund, Fidelity, for example, okay? And I don't short stocks because I'm a long-only firm, mutual fund. I buy stocks. And let's say I have a massive position in Electronic Arts, ticker EA, okay? Great game, by the way. So what happens is a trading floor calls me and says, hey, Chris, I noticed that you have a very, very big position in Electronic Arts. And you're a mutual fund, which means you're probably not going to sell Electronic Arts for a long time. Can I borrow some of your shares? And I'll say, okay, sure. Yeah, okay. I'll lend them to you for a while. You got to give them back. I'll lend them to you, but I'll charge you 5% per year. And so the person that calls me, the trading floor calls me, says, thank you. They then go to a hedge fund and lend those shares out for higher rates, say 6% per year. And then what happens is eventually me at Fidelity, I get those shares back plus interest. Now, on the other side of that trade, when it comes to a hedge fund, they only want to borrow shares or go short shares where the cost to borrow is quite low. And so what people look at is what's called the short interest ratio. And I can go there in more detail if you want me to. And so what happens is the hedge fund borrows those shares. They then sell them in the open market. And then they hope it goes down a lot so they can buy it back cheaper and make money on the spread when they return those shares to the investment bank or prime brokerage firm, which in turn returns those shares to the mutual fund, Fidelity in this example. The problem with shorting stocks, though, is when you short a stock, if it's really crowded and a lot of other people are short, you're paying a very, very high cost to borrow. Also, when you're short a stock, if the stock issues a dividend, you have to pay that as well. Also, last thing I'll say, when it comes to shorts, the losses can be infinite. Because if I'm short a stock, I'm betting it's going down, and it goes up to infinity, I lose an infinite amount of money. If we compare and contrast that with buying puts, which are part of options, when you buy puts, you invest a little bit of money in a financial instrument, and if the stock goes down, you make a lot of money. If the stock goes up, you just lose this much here. So that explains shorts and puts in a nutshell. If you have follow-up questions, please let me know. Thank you. Yeah, and Marin, we're covering that in the MBA program as well quite soon. Thanks. Okay, Marin's one of my great students. Yeah. Next up, Naveed wrote, hey, Chris, is your course on cryptocurrencies all we need for investing in trading cryptos or digital currencies? I mean, always do your own research, and I pride myself on, teaching my students how to fish instead of giving them fish. I think it is because I have about 175 links to other websites, which I've just updated in the cryptocurrency course. And so you can use my course as well as 175 other websites. I think it's all you need. I do. Or your money back. Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. And M3 wrote, is your MBA degree, does it have a time limit or is it lifetime access? No, you get it forever. And you get all the upgrades as well. So if I make new content, which I do every year, and this year I'm adding probably 30 or 40 new hours, but you get all that stuff for free forever. And I'll send out emails to everybody, letting them know, hey, I've added new content. Here's how to access it. Yeah, it's always going to be the most up-to-date, humbly, MBA degree program in the world. So if there are new social media platforms that really matter, that everybody is using, then I'll teach about it in the program. Yeah. Okay. Plus, there's money-back guarantees. Yeah. Okay. And then Myron wrote, Chris, do you think Africa is the next or should be the next business frontier, considering that China is not business friendly anymore And what should Africa do to invite more investors and business? Yeah, and this is something near and dear to my heart after my trip to Rwanda. So right now with Africa, a lot of first world countries are seeing it as an amazing place to get natural resources. I think it's only a matter of time until governments in Africa say, it's great that you're taking our resources, but we also want you to have a technology transfer and have your technology and other companies share some of your best practices so we can build our own version of Silicon Valley or whatever it might be, right? And so I'm very bullish on Africa in the long run as being the final frontier. It's not about space, Elon. It's about Africa in the long run. I really am. Yeah, it's the only major market where people haven't made an absolute killing aside from commodities and whatnot. I'm very bullish on Africa in the long run. I'd rather invest in Africa than in China. Yeah. All right. In terms of what should Africa do in general to invite more investors and businesses, I think offer tax breaks. So what Ireland has done, for example, and I know, Marin, you're based in the United Kingdom. What Ireland has done is Ireland has offered an amazing tax shelter for international companies. So if you open an office in Ireland, you only pay 11.5% taxes, and that's why chip giant Intel has a massive fab. Where's my chip? I can't find it. It's here somewhere. Yeah, Intel has. Oh, here it is. Here. Yeah. Has a massive fab in Ireland. It's been there for years. The Topps Corporation that makes baseball cards, they printed their Tiffany cards there for years. Udemy, even a great online ed tech company, they have offices there as well. So offering tax incentives is one way to do it. Or what you can do is, so I used to work at a venture capital firm in San Francisco. And we were in the Tenderloin district, which was kind of a seedy area at the time. It's much better now, at 6th and Market Street in San Francisco. And the reason we were there in the Warfield Theater, it was fun, was because our office, we got tax breaks, payroll tax breaks. And that's why Twitter is up there and Uber is up there as well in that same area. So the bottom line is, if governments offer tax incentives, then companies will come. Yeah, they'll do it. It's kind of like if you make it easier to do business in any country, then more companies are going to do it. So, for example, in Canada, sorry for speaking fast, but in Canada, a lot of movies are filmed there because the Canadian government gives these great tax benefits to companies that want to film in Canada. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Ganesh wrote, when planning to create a website or a platform or an app, what is the first step? Is there any way to begin the app before developing? Please advise what to do. Should I draw it or sketch first? Yeah, you definitely wireframe it first. I recommend writing an entire business plan first. And you can take my business plan course or my MBA degree program where I give you much more stuff about business planning and stuff. That's what I recommend. In terms of wireframing, I mean, you can do it if you want using Visio, which is a company that Microsoft bought years ago, which is a lot of the technology is now embedded in PowerPoint. You can even use PowerPoint if you want to do really simplistic, just wireframe designs. Yeah, that's what I recommend. And if you want inspiration for how to do a wire-based design, then what you can do is you can go to the U.S. government's Patent and Trademark Office website, which is uspto.gov, United States Patent and Trademark Office.gov, and you can do a search on patents to see wireframe diagrams that were drawn up by Apple decades ago to create the Apple Newton, for example, or whatever it is. Yeah. Wireframes are used quite often for patents as well, for filing. Yeah. All right. Next up, Sanyam wrote, hey, Chris, with respect to investing in global equities, which countries could be better as an investment? My home country is India. Yeah. Yeah, so I am incredibly bullish on India. It's what the Chinese government is doing now to the IPO market, the edtech market, and just the human rights is disgusting. And I think that companies are going to move out of Hong Kong and move to Singapore, which is great for Singapore. And I think a lot of big companies are going to choose India instead. So I think you've got gold in your backyard where you live right now, India. Now, when it comes to investing in other markets, the best thing I can do is suggest to you that you go to etfdb.com. That stands for Exchange Traded Funds Database.com, etfdb.com. And there are thousands of ETFs you can invest in that will give you exposure to overseas. So let me actually, you know what I'm going to do? Give me 1 second, guys. I'm actually going to, I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do it now. Hold on a second. I'm going to share my screen and show you guys everything. Okay. Hold on a second. Momento, por favor. All right. And let's see if this will work good. Okay, great. Cool. And this, by the way, this is how I'm reading the questions. And this is the most recent question here underneath my head. So I know that there's no complaints about the quality of the webcast. Okay. So what you do is you go to etfdatabase.com. Okay. etfdb.com. And then when you're at this website, which is free to use, you can look at an ETF screener and look at ETFs by geography. So say you want to invest overseas. So you click here, ETF by geography. And there's thousands of ETFs you can invest in. Don't use the clickable map. It looks cool, but it doesn't really work. Scroll down, and for Argentina, for example, let's say you want to invest in Argentina. You can click here and buy an Argentina-based ETF or exchange traded fund. So if you buy this ticker here, ARGT, you can get exposed to Argentina-based companies like Mercado Libre, which eBay used to own a big part of before they sold it in 2016. But yeah, you can invest here. You can find out the holdings as well. Mercado Libre here is the biggest one. And when it comes to investing, you want to make sure that you understand the components and, most importantly, two other things. Number one, what are the annual fees? And number two, what is liquidity? Does it trade a lot? And I'll show you how to do this. So let's take this ticker ARGT and let's go over to my favorite free website here, which is Yahoo Finance. And let's type in ARGT, okay, which is an ETF for Argentina. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look to see, whoops, I clicked the wrong button. We're going to look to see if it trades a lot so we can get in and out if need be, because illiquid stocks own us in a down market instead of vice versa. Then we're going to look at the fees. Okay. So first of all, we go here to summary and we go down here to average volume. So it's not that liquid really. So it trades 7,000 shares per day times 32 bucks. Alexa, what's 7,000 times 32?
7,000 times 32 is 224,000.
Okay, 224,000, yeah. So you want to make sure that if you put in, say, 10 or 20 grand, you can get out quickly and you can easily get out in a day. Okay. The next thing we're going to look at together is we're going to go to profile to look at the expense ratio. And so the expense ratio here is, it's a bit high, but it's under 1%, which is what I like to see. And this means that for every $100 you put into this fund, you have to pay 60 cents every year as a fee. That's not bad, because mutual funds charge you 4, 5, or 6%, including hidden fees. Yeah, that's why mutual funds are a ripoff. Yeah, and so ETFs is the best way to get exposure to different countries, different sectors, etc. Yeah, so yeah, and I'm including this in my options course as well. Mini ETFs as well. There's 4,400 stocks in America where you can trade options. There's 159 large ETFs that you can use for options. And there's, I think, 120 ADRs, or American Depository Receipts, meaning international companies listed on American markets where you can trade options. I know that's what I'm working on right now. Yeah. So hopefully that's helpful. Let me get back on track here. Let's go to Big Chris. All right. And give me 1 second. Here we go. Little color logo in the corner there. Okay. All right. And behind the scenes here, I'm getting back to my questions here. Okay, cool. All right. Next up, Schlock wrote here. Thank you for answering my question, Chris. You're most welcome. You're most welcome. Okay. And give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. It jumps on me sometimes. It happens. So I'm going to do a search on your name to find out where I was. Here we go. Thank you for answering my question, Chris. Is there a way I can connect with you one-on-one and pick your brain on my idea? Yeah, the best place to do it is right here. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'd love to help out all my students. I just don't have the time. It's hard. Yeah. In my my MBA program, you can ask questions. I answer those. And then in my gold and platinum version, I do one-on-ones. Yeah. Okay. And Lucas wrote, thank you very much, Chris. Oh my God. I feel like you're looking into my eyes. Oh, dude, I've made so many mistakes in business. I want you to all learn from my failures. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Next up, and we want to name my son Luke. Let me show you here. So your name is Lucas. We want to name him Luke. And what we did was, and this is Dylan here in the middle. My older kids, Andrew and Matthew, they're a bit older now. We didn't want them to be jealous of a new baby. Baby brother. Remember that movie? Yeah. So we want to name him Luke. And these guys threw a fit. Luke is such a dope name, too. It's biblical. I love it. Lucas is great. These guys threw a fit. And they said, I don't want baby brother to be named Luke. I want him to be named Han Solo, which would have been a dope name. So we settled for Dylan. Yeah. All right. All right, next up I've got Peter. Peter the Rock. How are you? Pierre. Another biblical name. Peter wrote here, a first-time listener and enjoy it. Thank you, Peter. It's great to see you here. Can you recommend a platform to buy and sell fractional ETFs automatically? I'm in the United Kingdom. Thanks. Yeah. I would check out Robinhood, which went public today under the ticker HOOD. And if you want to learn about the Robinhood IPO, go to my YouTube channel because at 9 a.m., 45 minutes ago, my vlog dropped on that topic. But when you use Robinhood, you can buy fractional shares, right? Commission-free as well. Yeah. And the way they make money, if there's no commission, is they have a great stock loan business where they lend out their shares to hedge funds and to individual investors that short, and they charge them fees that way. Yeah. But I would check out Robinhood. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Ragid wrote here, do you recommend always getting funded by high net worth individuals when starting a business, or should we wait until you make enough money from your employment and take all the risk? Yeah. It depends what your personal budget looks like. I don't want you to be stressed at home. I want you to be happy at home, because if you're happy at home, you'll be happy at work. And so if you have a lot of money saved up, obviously you can do it yourself, but I recommend using OPM, not the drug, but other people's money. And it's easy to raise money, or easier to raise money from high net worth investors. Don't waste your time talking to venture capital firms initially. Because what happens is venture capital firms and big endowment funds and big family offices, what happens is the analysts that work there that select where to invest, they have to take 3 meetings every day. And, if they're at work 250 days per year, that's, it's like 750 to 1,000, whatever, meetings per day or per year. And you're a number. That's all you are, is a checkbox. However, if you go to high net worth investors, the sales cycle is short because they are the decision maker. Always go directly to the decision maker, unless you work in a big company, which is bureaucratic and there's politics. But you got nothing to lose by always going to the decision maker at companies. And the best decision makers are high net worth investors because the sales cycle is quite short. Yeah. And I teach in my MBA program how to raise money as well. And I'm humbled to say I've raised and managed over $1 billion in my career. And I made a lot of mistakes too, but I kind of figured it out too, sort of. I'm trying. Yeah. All right, this is fun. Yeah, and in terms of, I get the question a lot, when should I quit my company? Or when should I quit the firm I'm working for to launch my own company? Well, if you can, I recommend starting a company on the side, right? If there's legal documents you signed, employment contracts that say you cannot start your own company, then don't do that. But if there's nothing like that, then discreetly write a business plan on the side. And you only have to be writing business one time. So maybe you'll write 10 business plans until you find one that's good. And then in terms of quantifying when to quit, well, I want you to quit your company, if you want to, only after the 6 months revenue, most recent 6 months of money you've made from your own company is greater than the annual salary you get from a big company. And we all know that if it's 2 or 3 months worth, you'll probably quit anyway. Yeah. But the reason I say 6 months is because I want you to be careful of seasonality. What's deadly is if you start a company on November 1st and your sales in November and December are huge. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to take those 2 months and multiply it by 6 because that's my annual salary. It's not. because most business closes in the last 2 months of a year. So be careful of seasonality. So I provide you with a ton of tools and frameworks to help you start a company. And I pride myself on teaching my students how to start companies with zero money down and they never use a penny. And I want you to always create scalable business models, platform-based business models so you can charge the cars. Yeah. And this is my keyboard. And for every Zoom meeting I ever do, I always have to say, please unmute with a smiley face there. And people do the same thing to me as well. Zoom is not that easy to use, man. Okay. All right. Or maybe I'm just getting old. Okay. Rahid wrote, I'm starting a part-time MBA at London Business School. Awesome. It's a great school. I think Columbia, where I went, there was a joint venture there. I think. Yeah. LSE is good too. London School of Economics. That's where Mick Jagger went. Yeah. And you wrote, I hope it'll pay off and get me the job I want in finance. Yeah. So I would make sure you network aggressively while you're a student there with alumni from your school. Okay. They're not going to teach you, by the way, in business school how to interview. I'll teach you that in my program. Take my program at the same time if you want. It's a lot cheaper and you get your money back 100% on mine as well. And I have a lot of people from the top business schools in the world that have taken my program, and humbly, they've said they've learned a lot more in the first 1 to 2 months in my program, doing it on the side at night, than they did in their MBA program. The MBA stuff that you're gonna learn, a lot of it's gonna be theoretical. Yeah. And so if I could humbly advise what to take when you're there, well, the things in business that are not common sense are finance and accounting. So try to focus on those topics as well, but try to understand finance and accounting and the formulas as well, and enjoy them instead of just memorizing it. Yeah. And best of luck and enjoy. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Some people coming from undeveloped countries are disadvantaged when trying to find a job in the U.S. Visa problems as well. Yeah, that's a great point. What I would say is this: if you're working in a different, if you live in a country and you want to move to another country, then what I recommend doing, if you can, is get a job at a company in your country. Get a job at a company in your country that has their headquarters in the country you want to move to. Do exceptionally well, network within the organization, rise up as much as you can, and it's only a matter of time until they try to transfer you to the mothership, right? You can't become a very, very senior executive without spending some time at the mothership, meaning the corporate headquarters. This works. Okay. All right, and you're most welcome, Lucas. Okay, and Ragid wrote, I think this is where a degree from a top school makes a difference. Yeah, or visas and whatnot. Yeah. But if you network like crazy, you can still get around that. Yeah. All right. And keep in mind that there are a lot of people that worked in the mailroom with no high school education even, that made it to the corner office by networking. You know, I've got tons of examples. You know, Barry Diller, who's like, he owns 8 million internet companies now. David Geffen, you know, from Geffen Records. You got Simon Cowell. All these people started in the mailroom from American Idol. That guy is not that nice. Yeah, I'm sure he's probably nicer in real life. You've got the former president of ESPN started in the mailroom, no education. The former editor-in-chief of Cosmopolitan magazine started in the mailroom, no education. The former CEO of Goldman Sachs for decades, named Sidney Weinberg. Sidney Weinberg started in the mailroom as well. Why do I mention this? Because if you work in the mailroom, you're usually a dude that can network as well, right? Or you get exposure to people. You know, top of the morning to you, sir, or ma'am, here's your mail. Did you see the Blue Jays beat the Yankees again last night? Like they always do. That sort of thing. They're gregarious, they network. Okay, next question. Garbett is saying, how do we network with people who have not much in common with us? Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah. So what I would do is this. If you know who you're going to be meeting with, what I recommend doing is before you meet them, go to their Twitter profile and find out who and what they follow. If they follow certain sports teams, you might be able to come up with a conversation about that, or at least check the box score to see if that cricket team or baseball team won or lost that day, whatever it is. You know, if they follow certain Hollywood actors or actresses, just be prepared maybe to talk about a movie with that actor or actress in it. If they follow certain news agencies, you might know their political affiliation. Okay, I'm going there. Here I go. If somebody loves CNN and watches it all the time, they're probably Democrat. If somebody watches Fox News and watches it all the time, they're probably Republican. And by the way, never follow politicians on Twitter unless you follow both politicians, Democrat and Republican. And never, ever mention on LinkedIn profile your political affiliation or politicians you follow, because half the people might like you more and the other half vice versa. And before you go for an informational interview or meeting with any company, make sure you read the newspapers that morning, the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, etc. And set up a Google alert so you get automatic email alerts on the company that you're meeting with. So that, let's say you're about to start your meeting and you're in the waiting room, the lobby waiting, on your Android handset or iPhone, you can get an alert about a news development from Google Alert. And that's what you can talk about in the meeting if you want to. But always bond before business. And when you go into that interview, this is going to sound out there, but it works. When you go into that interview, don't be nervous and tell yourself right before it starts, I don't give a damn how this goes. I'm just going to be me. Because you remember that time when you asked somebody out on a date years ago and you just didn't really care, whatever, you're kind of a different mood, you didn't care, and they said yes. And you're like, whoa. So I didn't come across as too eager. It works. And I'm not saying be rude or disingenuous in an interview, but just be you. Because everybody else is taken and your friends and family love you for who you are. And if you just be yourself, which is easier, then other people will love you as well. It's just the way it works. It's kind of like when you're around a senior executive. If you're nervous and you get into an elevator and you're like, oh gosh, what do I talk about? Beautiful weather today, isn't it, sir? Or whatever it is. You get out of the elevator and you think to yourself, which was me in the past, God, did I say something smart? Did I sound smart? Well, that senior executive loses respect for you. Your friends in the company lose respect for you because you're kissing up, which I've done before. Wrong. I don't do it anymore, obviously. I've made a lot of mistakes. Just be yourself. It works. Because everyone else is taken. Yeah. All right. Next up, Peter wrote here, how would you validate a business idea before building it or launching it? I know there's an MVP, which stands for minimum viable product, or Steve Blank's methodology. But I was curious if you have your own take on it. Thanks. Yeah, I have. In my MBA program, I've got a list of 1,000 questions to go through, right? I evaluate everything about a business model from a qualitative, quantitative perspective, finance perspective, total addressable market perspective, management team perspective, etc. So there's a lot that goes into that. And I provide my students with a ton of frameworks or tools in their toolbox in the MBA program. Yeah. All right. Next up, Ian Y. Wrote, hey, Chris, we value family. But what if they want you to live the way they want, meaning work not so hard, move away from the U.S. back home country so you can't take better care of each other? Yeah. It's hard. I know what you're talking about. Earlier on, I answered a question about how do I get a visa to work in another country? And I mentioned, work at a company that's headquartered in the country you want to move to. Work for that company in your country, prove yourself, and then get promoted, and then they'll move you to the mothership as well and take care of the visas. They always do. But if you want to stay home and be with your family, I still think it's possible using Zoom. I do. And what COVID has taught us, and with crisis comes online opportunity. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. But what COVID has taught us is that we can function. Look how well the economy has been doing, or bouncing back at least, with everybody working from home. Right? Like, if Zoom was invented before office buildings were invented, would we still go into office buildings? Not as much. The whole process of spending an hour or two every day commuting and getting changed and all that crazy stuff. It's like I wear a nice top clothes here. I'm wearing my track pants here. You can't see. But it's so incredibly inefficient. and it's also bad for the environment. So I think it's only a matter of time till a lot of companies let you work in senior positions overseas as well. And yes, you can network aggressively using Zoom. A lot of my students do it effectively, and most people don't try to do it, which is great for you and all of us because there's less competition. And in my MBA program, I also teach you how to set up an amazing audio and video experience based on what you have instead of buying new products. Yeah. Take a little bit of my breakfast here. There's a lot of kale in here. I take a couple of my vitamins. All right. Fun. All right, next up, Manastro. Thank you for answering my questions. My mentor, you're more than welcome. Thank you. God bless you and your family forever and ever. And thank you for the emojis. And God bless you way more. Thank you. And if you guys haven't seen the movie 3 Idiots yet, which is the best Bollywood movie ever made, you have to see it. If you have kids, or if you want to change your career at some point in your life, which is everybody, you have to watch that movie. It's called 3 Idiots. It's on Netflix now too, and I think Amazon Prime for free. It's life-changing. I laughed and cried multiple times during it. Yeah, it's good. Okay. And then Lucas said, will the options course be on Udemy? It will. It will, yeah. I've got a longer, more elaborate version that will be in the program as well. The courses that do better on Udemy aren't as long as, yeah. Okay. Next up, L is saying, will your options course be included as an update in your MBA program? Absolutely. A much longer version as well. And there's going to be a lot of electives as well centered around this and other content I'm adding, right? So if you've already graduated, these are electives you can take if you want. And you don't pay a penny ever again. Yeah. It's a one-time payment. Okay. Garb is saying, what do you think of Elon's company, Neuralink? I haven't done much work on it, sorry. What do you think of Clubhouse, the new voice-based social media platform? I'm on it right now. One of my students, Kemi Tarde from Nigeria, she lives in Canada now, got me on it. I don't have a strong enough opinion to give yet. But you want to check out what Gary Vaynerchuk says about it. Because as my dad told me growing up, he said, Chris, only take advice from successful people. So take advice from Gary V when it comes to Clubhouse, TikTok, and other social media platforms. I think he's brilliant. Yeah. He grows on you too. At first, you might think he's abrasive, but he's honest. He's transparent. And it's something that his viewers like. Yeah. He's my second favorite vlogger out there. My favorite is Marquise. The guy that does all those tech product reviews. He's great. And he's honest as well. And a great communicator. And likable. Okay, next up, Naveed wrote, hey, Chris, thanks for giving away the free complete job course. My pleasure. Can you please share a view of how it's named on your education website? Yeah, so I'll show you how to access it really quickly here. So what you do, and then in a second I'm going to go and talk about, or soon I'll talk about how to get the free MBA. So if you go to my website here, go to Haroun Education, harounventures.com/complete job, all lowercase, right here. Yeah. And right here, you just click here and you get access to it. Yeah. And if any of you are curious about the Robinhood IPO, let me go and take a look to see if it's dropped. Yeah, give me 1 second. So, meaning my video and how it's trading. We'll check the trade in a minute. Usually the first trade's around 10 a.m. New York time. Right now it's 10 a.m. Pacific time, so it should be live now. And it priced between 38 and 42 bucks. And I'll tell you the quote in a second. Yeah. Here it is here. So go here to the Robinhood IPO. See right here? And you can learn more about Robinhood right here. Yeah. Okay. And then what I want to do is, while we're here, let's check out how the Robinhood IPO is doing. Ticker HOOD. All is good in the hood. It's kind of a cool ticker. Oh, wow. It's down a bunch from the IPO. That's interesting. So what happened was they priced the deal. The range was 38 to 42 bucks. It broke the IPO price. Well, that's interesting. And the market's up today, too. That's fascinating. Wow. Wow. Oh, my God. What a botched IPO. Brutal. Wow. This reminds me of Facebook's IPO. On day one, where it fell a bunch. Wow. All right. Let me go back here to And if you guys want me to do real-time live analysis of that, I'm happy to go there. You guys are the customer. Just let me know where you want to take this call. Thanks. Okay. All right. And then Naveed is saying, what's your link for your options investing course? Yeah, I don't have it yet because it's not out yet. It'll come out soon, though. Yeah. All right. Marion said, Chris, thank you for answering my question, and thanks for doing this for all of us. Thank you. You're most welcome, and thank you for being here as well. And I hope your dad, Samson, is doing well. Yeah. Okay. Frederick Mendoza. Frederick, how are you? Frederick's in my MBA program. Great guy. He lives in Baltimore. Right? He works in the healthcare sector. He is awesome at options. He's one of my guys I'm talking to about the options course, getting feedback on. He's great. He's great. Great strategist, too, when it comes to tech stuff. Good to see you, Fred. Hope you're doing well, man. All right. And then here, hold a second here. Hold on a second, guys. Okay, here we go. All right, next up, Marwan. Marwan was the name of my best friend growing up too. A guy named Jason Denny, whose first name was Marwan. Yeah, although his mom used to call him Mimo. Yeah. So Marwan said, "Hey Chris, thank you for doing this. You're most welcome. My question is, do we get a certificate after completing the MBA program? You do actually, and I've got it right here. So after you complete it, you get this. So you get this. I make a PDF version for you. And then I also, in the very last lecture of the program, I tell you how to order this frame. If you want, I don't make money in this stuff ever, but you can get the frame for like 25 or 30 bucks. Okay. I took the glass off because of reflection for camera. And then, yeah, I send you this as well. Yeah. All right. Next up, I've got Sarthik wrote, "Hey Chris, I'm 18. Oh, to be 18 again." There's a great song by Alice Cooper called 18. You got to listen to it. It's great. So Sarthik said, "I'm 18 and I just want to do something, but I still have no idea how to start." I've been there, man. "I always buy many courses and even complete them, but after that, I have no clue how to implement. Much love." Yeah, that's okay. I've been there. You don't have to have all the answers when you're 18 or 30 or 40 or 50 even. You can change careers many times in your life. And you'll know you found your passion in life when you get up one day and you're like, I'm not going to work. I'm going to do what I'm passionate about. And that's what I'm all about as well, trying to humbly help if I can. So don't stress out. But in terms of implementing what you learned, I think the best thing you can do is go on a long walk and write down what your perfect life is going to be in 10 years when you're 28. Okay. Write a lot. And then once you figure it out, those are your goals. And put that on your Android handset or iPhone in your calendar and have that text repeat daily. And then figure out, how do I fill that gap between where I am now to my perfect life in 10 years? And also enjoy life along the way. One of the mistakes I made when I was younger, when I was a little bit older than you, was I told myself, I want to make a fortune, and then I want to get married and have kids. What a useless life that would have been. I want you to stop and smell the roses along the way. And if anybody's watching this right now, and you have a newborn or a couple of kids at home, and you go for a walk, and your kid's in the stroller or you're carrying your kid, you'll notice that older people will look at you, and they'll smile. And that smile is telling you, don't look stressed out. Enjoy every second. You can't get that time back. So stop and smell the roses along the way. But make sure that you write down your goals as well, so that you can work towards something. Yeah. And we change over time too. What we loved when we were younger, we might not love now. People change. And your career will change multiple times as well, or might. Yeah. All right. And Lucas said, my parents would never name me Han Solo. I know, but it's a dope name. Yeah, Lucas is a great name too. All right. Next up, Forrester wrote, what advice can you give me as I want to move into the energy space? Yeah. So what I would do is start to network aggressively with people that are similar to you that work in the energy space. And you can go to my website if you want, harounventures.com. Download my networking book for free. I promise you it'll teach you how to network effectively, and it's free as well. And you want to target people that are similar to you, but older and with more experience in the sector. For example, and I'll answer this in a generic perspective so it applies to everybody. Let's say it's 20 years in the future, okay? And you are 20 years more successful in 20 years than you are today. And you worked hard to get there. And you get this message from this kid or this person that's 20 years younger than you. And this person's from the same hometown as you. This person went to the same school as you. This person has a lot in common with you. And they say to you, hope all is well. I'm also from the same hometown as you. I went to the same school as you and whatever else, other stuff in common. Do you have time to meet for a Zoom call or whatever? Would you say no to that? Of course you wouldn't. You want to help yourself in hindsight. And we have to understand that people want to help us. All you have to do is ask. Ask and you'll receive. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. That's how I want you to think about networking when it comes to meeting with somebody in the energy sector. They'll help you. So great, you got the meeting, now what? Well, in the meeting, in the first 10 or 20 minutes, just talk about what you have in common. You know, is that restaurant still open on campus or on Main Street, whatever it is? And then eventually, very politely, 10 or 15 minutes into the conversation, they're going to say to you something like this: why are we meeting? They'll say it in a nice way. And then you mention, well, I'm interested in learning more about the energy sector. It's something I'm passionate about. They're going to help you. And you can even ask them, do you know anybody who's also from the same hometown as us that works in the energy sector and might want to hire? And if they're looking, of course, they'll say, well, I am. They'll help you. You got to do this over and over again, though. Rinse, lather, repeat until you reach your goals in life. You know, relationships are more important than product knowledge. And your network is your net worth. And this works. I promise you it does. Okay. All right. And Rebrain wrote, Chris, you're the best teacher. No, thank you. What one teaches, two learn. And those who can't do, teach. And those who can't teach gym class. And I suck at sports, so you're all out of luck. Yeah. Thank you. All right, next up, Paul Pinto wrote, Chris, is the lifestyle in the Bay Area different from New York? New York is all about showing off lifestyle. The Bay frowns upon showing off wealth. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if the Bay really, I don't know. I'd say it's different partially because New York is just a bigger city too. You know, when you have 10 million people in 5 boroughs, whatever it is, it's a little bit different. Here it's a little bit more laid back 'cause it's smaller. I mean, San Francisco, it doesn't even have 1 million people. It's tiny, right? It's kind of like if you move to a small town in Middle America or anywhere in the world. It's just that the attitudes are a little bit different as well. It's less stressful. Yeah. Plus, here in the Bay Area, you had the hippie movement back in the 60s, and people are very open and understanding here, and make love not war, they used to say, whatever. But here failure is cool. If you fail, it's like, okay, hey man, try again. And the beautiful thing about the Bay Area where I live is that more than 50% of the top engineers and founders and CEOs of companies they're from overseas. And so you've got this wonderful cultural mosaic, or lack of a melting pot, I should say, breadth of diversity here in the Bay Area, where people have opinions from all over the world. But the one thing they have in common is, hey, it's cool to fail. Just try again. Okay. And then Paul wrote here, even the Series 3 BMW is too much for someone working in Google. Doesn't it get frustrating? No, I would say, no. I think people, Google, for example, went public in 2004, and thousands of millionaires were created from the IPO. And I know a lot of people that bought pretty badass cars. Yeah. Yeah, I think people here are a little bit more inclined to want to buy, environmentally friendly cars, but there's Teslas everywhere here. Yeah, yeah. Okay, next up, Rodrigo wrote, "Hey Chris, greeting from Vancouver, Canada. Thank you. Good to see you. My mom was born in Vancouver. Yeah, it's a beautiful city. Go play Furry Creek if you get a chance. The golf club there. I love it. That's where I shot Happy Gilmore. Remember with Adam Sandler when he said the price is wrong, bitch." And he hit Bob Barker. Yeah. They did that on the hole right by the water there. Lots of bears there too. So greetings from Vancouver. Thanks for your teaching us. My pleasure. Thanks for being here. My question is, what are your thoughts about the future of Bitcoin? Thanks. Yeah. So I'm bullish. I've held Bitcoin for years. I used to mine it until it got too expensive to mine. What I like about it is that there's a dearth or a limit of supply. There's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin that'll ever be created by the year 2140. I'm not a buyer now. I buy when everyone's freaking out. That's when I buy. I usually back up the truck and buy stocks and other asset classes when the VIX spikes a lot. VIX ticker. Yeah. All right. Next up, Peter wrote, "Thanks for answering my question about ETFs earlier, Chris. However, Robinhood never launched in the United Kingdom." Oh, okay. So here's what I would do then. So call up the 5 biggest banks in your country. Yeah. And then what you do is when you get on the line with them, ask them, what is the name of their brokerage service? And they'll tell you the name or transfer you. And then when you call those 5 brokerage services, you want to ask, can I do partial shares? And are commissions 0? Right? And the answer probably is yes, if they want to be competitive. Yeah. All right. Next up, Amy wrote here, "Will I get a job after doing your MBA if I pursue it with utmost dedication?" Yes, if you pursue it with all of your heart, you will be successful. You just got to be willing to network like crazy. It works, I promise you. You can read the student reviews from the MBA program. Just go to my website. You can click through to find reviews from there, or go to learn.harounventures.com. Or what you can do is this. You can reach out to the hundreds of graduates or alumni, whatever, that have listed their alumni on LinkedIn, and just reach out to any of them and just ask them. Ask them what are the negatives and the positives. Okay. And then Marie Brain wrote, "If you're new to the health field, what career choice do you think will be obsolete in the future?" Yeah. Interesting. That's tough. I'm trying to think about, so the healthcare sector and the finance sector has not seen too much technology innovation until the past 5 years because they're highly regulated markets. We are seeing a lot more in fintech now, and of course, because of COVID, you're seeing a lot of investment in the biotech sector, especially anything revolving life extension. Yeah. Because I believe that I have many students on this call that are going to make it to 150 now. If you want to learn more about life extension, read everything you can find on the head of engineering at Google, a guy named Ray Kurzweil. Yeah, and I take his supplements as well. Yeah, you can't reverse aging, but you can slow it down a bit. Yeah. Obsolete in the future. I think pharmacies. It's the whole process of ordering your medicine and then going to a pharmacy and lining up and waiting till it's ready. It's idiotic. I get my meds delivered to my house, so I think pharmacies are going to be obsolete. Of course, there will always be need for corner stores and small pharmacies, but not to the extent you have right now. It's like bank tellers. Yeah. So I would say bricks and mortar pharmacies will become somewhat obsolete or less relevant in the long run. That's why I say within healthcare. Also, even surgery in the long run, there's companies like Intuitive Surgical, ticker ISRG. And what they do is they have robots doing surgery now, right? But that's a long, long way off, right? But I think the support staff supporting doctors, the number of them will go down as well, because that will be replaced with automation and technology. Not all of it, but some of it, yeah. All right, next up, Sarlik wrote, "Chris, how to start anything in life, like building a website business or move out of your country?" Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is when you set goals, you've got to vocalize it and also set a deadline date, right? So 90% of people give up on their New Year's resolutions by the 3rd week of January. because they don't set a deadline date and they don't vocalize it. So what you have to do is tell people about your goals, set a deadline date, and so every time you vocalize it, and so every time you see them, they'll say, well, how's that? Like, that's what I did with my book, 101 Crucial Lessons They Don't Teach You in Business School. I told a ton of people I was writing it. And every time I saw them, they're like, how's that book coming along? I was like, oh, God, I haven't finished it yet. And finally, I set a deadline date, and I vocalized that. Eventually, I got it done. And it puts pressure on you in a good way to get it done. So you want to vocalize your goals always and set a deadline date. Always set a deadline date. Yeah. And don't be upset if you don't achieve all your goals initially, because we tend to overestimate how much we can accomplish in a year, but we massively underestimate how much we can accomplish in a decade. Just stay the course. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You'll get there. As Oprah Winfrey said, you can have it all, but you can't have it all at once. Yeah. All right. And Amy said, Three Idiots is my favorite movie too. It's great, man. It's great. It's amazing. Yeah. I think it made over 90 million bucks. The highest grossing Bollywood movie globally. Yeah. Next up, Peter wrote, a quick heads up. I subscribed to your free course on the complete job link. And also today, it's not arrived. Spam box checked. Just so you know, might be a tech issue. Yeah. Maybe you've already registered for that course. Let me take a picture of that right now. Yeah, let me take a, sorry, my wife just told me to turn on the volume, but that was from this morning. I was listening to the Wall Street Journal podcast. Let me take a picture really quickly. All right, so what I'll do is I'm going to send that right now to Joey, who's one of my guys in Toronto. He's great, and he'll take care of that right now. And I love to take care of things right away. It's just the way I work. Sorry, one second, guys. Okay. Please help with Peter comment. Okay, great. Thank you. And if anybody else is running into any issues at all with my website or anything, buying any programs, lack of emails, whatever, let us know, please. Thank you. The company is only as good as its customer support. Yeah. All right. Next up, Caroline wrote, hi, Chris. I love to watch you live on a weekly basis. Thank you. I appreciate it. What do you consider sufficient volume when you're looking to buy a stock? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what I would say is try to, whatever amount you're gonna put into the stock, make sure that it's less than 10% of that daily volume. And I know that's kind of a stretch, right? But let's say you want to put $100,000 into a stock. Make sure that stock trades at least 10x that daily, meaning $1 million daily. Yeah. Because as a lot of hedge funds learned in the fall of 2008, illiquid stocks own us rather than vice versa in a down market. Yeah. All right. And moving on to Alex P. In a couple of minutes, I'll do the giveaway here for the MBA program. Yeah. So Alex P. Wrote, I'm working to achieve my next role in finance or data analysis. Which do take more weight? Working in data projects at another company or doing online courses at Udemy, Coursera, a Pluralsight, etc. I would say experience. Yeah, experience always trumps everything else. But I definitely recommend taking online data analysis courses as well. Yeah, you can take it from Maven Analytics as well as Kirill on Udemy is great. Yeah, and I'm going to start getting into that market soon too. Yeah, but not with advanced coding stuff. I'm going to make a course called the Complete Microsoft Excel course with no coding. Yeah, so we'll see. Yeah, because it's fun for me. Yeah. Okay. And then Sarlik said, sheesh, Robinhood made some Redditors angry. The stock is down bad. Yeah, that's brutal, man. It's a really mismanaged IPO. Yeah, and George, hey George, how are you, man? George is based in the great state of Texas. Don't mess with Texas. He's also one of my MBA students. He's awesome. He used to work at EDS. Great guy, very charismatic. So he's asking me, please do an analysis of the Robinhood IPO. Absolutely, let's do this, dude. All right, cool. All right, so I'm gonna go here and we'll take a look here. Yeah. All right, so this was an hour ago. Let's hit refresh to see how we're doing now. Okay, it's bounced back. That's nice. And one of the reasons why it might have bounced back is because the investment bankers might be supporting it. And let me explain how this works from scratch, okay? So what we're going to do is whenever a company wants to go public, they have to file what's called an S-1, okay? It's like an annual report, but much more detailed. So you go to sec.gov, which is the American website, government website, and you type in hood. All is good in the hood. All is not good in the hood. And then right here you have all of the filings, okay? So right here, this is the S1. And this document here tells you all about the company. It's gold. You got to read it. And then here, this means the amended version, or final version. Okay, so I'm going to go here and look at the amended version of the prospectus. Okay, I'll run through this fast, I promise you. And I won't go through all this because it can be pretty boring. Okay, great. So let me go here to find out what the range was. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so when they were trying to set the range of the stock, they mispriced it big time. So they wanted to price the stock between $38 and $42. And the maximum amount was supposed to be $42. And if demand was red hot, then instead of selling 50, which is not, instead of selling 55 million shares, they would sell 60.5 million shares. But they ended up selling 55 million shares instead. And the way it works is as follows. You've got, these are the investment bankers here on the syndicate, okay? And these are the investment bankers that took the company public. The reason you have more than one bank here that took the company public is because it's a $2.5 billion offering. That's how much money they're going to be raising in the primary and secondary portion of this offering. And so you need a lot of banks to be able to distribute the securities, right? The shares of Hood globally, right? And that's why Mizuho is here for Japan. And you got a lot of American banks here and Canadian others too. Bank of Montreal. So Goldman is top left, and that's the most prestigious place to be, top left. Okay, top right is J.P. Morgan, and what most definitely happened was this: the bankers here, when they took their orders, right, from what happens is the investment bank goes on a road show with the management team, right? They show the management team to the rest of the world and high net worth investors and mutual funds and hedge funds, and after those individual meetings over the past couple of weeks on the road show, the investment bankers would call the big mutual funds and hedge funds, and they'd say, "What do you think of the deal? And how many shares do you want to buy and at what price?" Right? And they create the order book. And so the range of the IPO was between 38 and 42 bucks, right? And so what happened was demand was a little bit worse than expected, and so most people said, "Well, I want 38 bucks," and that's how they priced the offering at the low end of the range. And that signals to the marketplace that, hey, where there's smoke, there's fire. Demand might be a little bit worse than expected. And so after Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, all these investment bankers called all their clients, and I've been on the other end of the phone on both sides before, called all their clients and gave them their shares this morning, what probably happened was this. When you're in a hot IPO, right, you usually ask for more shares than you think they're going to give you. And you pad your order because you think the stock's going to spike, because IPOs are supposed to go up 30% if done right. This one was done wrong. IPOs are supposed to go up 30% on day one of trading. And so what happens is when you get that call from the banker and you're a hedge fund, like I used to be, and you're told that you're getting a lot of shares you asked for, you're like, "Oh my God, I'm getting that many shares? I padded my order, but that's kind of scary. I'm getting all those shares. That means demand wasn't great." And so what happened was with Facebook, for example, which went public in the summer of 2012, I was at a hedge fund, a hybrid hedge fund. We did venture as well. And one of the bankers called me the morning of the IPO on a Friday and said, "Chris, you're not going to believe this. I fought so hard for you. I got you every share of Facebook you asked for." And I said, "Oh, wow, thank you." Hung up the phone and I yelled over my trader, "I want you to dump Facebook at the opening as quickly as possible. And eventually if we can get aboard, we're going to go short." So what happened was people were probably surprised. They got more shares than they expected. And the deal also priced at the low end of the range, 38, not up to 42, right? And so people are kind of freaking out. And so the stock gapped down at the open because everyone's freaking out, kind of like what I was doing, right? So it was down to 34 bucks at one point. It's now bouncing back right now. And I tell you the reason it's probably bouncing back right now is because the investment bankers are supporting the deal. Because Goldman Sachs has too much at stake here to have a broken IPO. And it might not be broken. We don't know yet. The day's not over. It probably will be a little bit. So the investment bankers have a lot of powder dry, and they're buying the heck out of this to try to support the stock. Yeah. Interesting, eh? All right. And let me go back here to regular mode, Chris. Okay. Cool. All right. And I guess right now it's time for the giveaway. Yeah, let's do it now. Okay, good. So the way it works is I give away my MBA degree program, the $999 on-demand version, to one person on this webcast. And you're not allowed to be a part of what we're about to do, this game, this question I'm about to ask. You can't answer it if you've already purchased the MBA program. It's got to be somebody new, okay? All right, so what I'm doing is, you can't see this, but I'm going through my slides trying to think of a question asked based on the stuff I taught this morning. Okay, here we go, I got it. All right, this is good. Whoever answers this correctly, the first person to answer this correctly wins. Okay. Earlier today, I talked about how to assess if a company's pipeline looks good, meaning future deals by looking at their financial statements. I talked about something called bookings. What is the formula for bookings? As I explained earlier. So whoever answers this first perfectly gets it. And you can't have already bought my program. What is the formula for bookings? Cool. And while we're waiting, oh, thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. Look at that. I got the best guys I work with. Yeah. Peter Sherman, if you're watching still, which I think you are, Joseph, who works with me, Joey's a great guy. He said he works for Chris. Please provide the email you signed up with so I make sure you access the product. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that, buddy. I think it's just a one-off, just one person. So, Peter, just when you type in your email address, type, don't do the whole thing directly. Like, leave a space in between, because Yahoo YouTube blocks out internet addresses. So instead of giving me, I don't know, john@gmail.com, just do John space at space Gmail space DOT, not the dot, com, that sort of thing. So enter it right now, please. Thanks. And thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. Joey's my brother from another mother. He's family. He heads up sales and marketing. He's great. All right. And a company is only as good as its customer service. And Joey's the best. All right, so let's see who got the question right. The question was, what is bookings? And so bookings is revenue, okay, plus deferred revenue from this quarter minus deferred revenue from last quarter. That's right. It's revenue plus the change in deferred revenue. Great job. So Nutan, you won. Congratulations. Congratulations. So Nutan, what you can do is you can email support@harounventures.com and provide your name and email address, and I will personally answer that tonight and congratulate you and send you the $999 MBA program for free. Congratulations. That was fun. Nice. Okay, cool. Thanks again, Joey, for that. You're the best, brother. Love you, man. Okay. Next up, Zachary. Oh my God, Zach, it's been a while, dude. So Zach wrote, hey, Chris, long time no see. Hoping all is well with you. How can I, as a foreigner living outside the USA, invest in the USA stock market? You can definitely invest. I mean, anybody can invest in the US stock market. What I would do is this. You want to call up, get a list of the top 5 banks in your country. Call up all 5 of those banks and ask all of those banks, what is the name of the brokerage division that is affiliated with that bank? And then get transferred. And ask them, can you buy US stocks like AAPL, Apple? And ask them one more thing. Ask them, what is the cost, the commission? Do that for 5 banks, okay? And whatever the lowest cost is, that's the one you go with. You should be able to do it, yeah. Okay. All right. And if that doesn't work, let me know. We'll go to a plan B. Yeah. All right, next up, Caroline wrote, hey again, Chris. Hey. When you look at buying an ETF, the cost is displayed. For example, the Canadian stock Algonquin, ticker AQN, I don't know where to find the info. Yeah, so that's I don't think that's a stock, not an ETF. But let me go and check that out with you right now. Give me 1 second. All right, so I'm going to go here and rearrange my desktop again. There's smaller me, mini me, and I will go to you mentioned Algonquin, and let me find out what ticker that is. AQN. Okay, AQN. Yeah, this is not an ETF. This is a stock, right? So you can still get the volume, which you find out right down here, but there's actually no expense fee. And the reason there's no expense fee located here anywhere is because this is not an ETF. This is a company, right? So there's no expense fee to buy one share of a company, except for commissions you'll pay to RBC or CIBC Investors Edge or whatever service you use up there. Yeah. And if that did not answer your question properly, please let me know, and thank you as always. Okay. All right, cool. All right. Next up, Forster, and I worked on the IPO when I was at Goldman Sachs, the IPO of the TSX Toronto Stock Exchange. It's a great market. It's a great market, much more credible than it used to be as well, TSX, and the Montreal exchange is where they do all the options as well. And there's a couple hundred stocks in Canada where you can trade options, and I'll cover that in my options course or in my MBA program in more detail. Thanks. All right, next up, Forster wrote, "Thank you so much, Chris. You're really a blessing." Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm humbled to hear that. And then you wrote, may God continue to bless you and yours. Thank you. And may God bless you way, way, way more. Yeah. See, if I did accreditation, I couldn't say God bless you because they want to take God out of school, which is not right. Yeah. Little side note, I never worry about career because, within reason, God already knows what's going to happen. And that puts me at ease. And the beautiful thing about that is you might have a failure, perceived failure in your career, but perception becomes a reality. And years later, you might look back and say to yourself, thank God I was guided down a different path. So don't worry. Hakuna Matata. It'll all work out. And it was Winston Churchill who once said, I met a man who on his deathbed talked about all the worries he had had in his life, none of which came true. Okay, next up I got Sarthik, who wrote, "Hey Chris, you remind me of an anime. I know you're old for this." I love it. You're old for this. I love it. I love it. Which anime is that? It's a character, a great teacher, Onizuka. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Hajime mashite. I got to do a search now. You wrote, "It's more like how a teacher changes a student's life and teaches them in a unique way." Interesting. I got to look. Thank you. And I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, hold on a second. No one's ever called me that before, an anime, but now I'm curious. I got to go there with you. Come on a ride with me. We'll find out what I look like in anime world. Let's see here. Here it is here. Okay. Okay, good. So I'm 22 years old then. Okay. So old for 22. That's not bad. Okay, there's me here. That's me. Okay, so that's what I look like in an animation world. And what is that? Is that like a stick of gum or an old Sony memory stick? I am that old to remember that. GTO, great teacher. Okay, cool. Nice. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, man. Japanese manga series. Very cool. Very cool. Thank you. Thank you. Directed by Hiroshi. Excellent. Thank you for that. No, I appreciate that. Cool. At least you didn't call me Mr. Burns. Yeah. Smithers, release the hounds. Mr. Burns, I love you. In that shirt. Okay. That was one episode. It's fun. All right. All right. Next. Thank you. Sorry, I appreciate that. God bless you, brother. Pearl wrote, "Touch hand once." I think I learned that from you in your entire MBA 1 course. You just did that with taking note of Peter Sherman's issue. Yes, you're totally right. You're totally right. I really believe in that too. It's kind of like old school business advice. Touch hand once. Only let an inner office memo touch your hand once and take care of it right away. And I'm the exact same way whenever I'm in the kitchen. I take it to the extreme. It's a little out there, but when I make a salad, I love making a nice big salad with avocado every night. It's so good. When I get the spices and the olive oil and the apple cider vinegar from the cupboard, it only touches my hand once, each thing, and I put it back. And I know it sounds cray-cray and out there, but It saves you a lot of times if you develop that mentality. Yeah. Next up, Lucas said, I just watched the VIX. It works amazing with the RSI. Thank you, Chris. You're most welcome. Yeah, check out that video. Anybody that's interested on when to back up the truck and buy stocks no matter what, go to my website, harounventures.com, and at the top do a search on VIX. It works. It works. And it's central to my options course coming up as part of my MBA degree program, and it's a shorter standalone course as well. Yeah, thank you. All right. Next up, Nutan. Oh, this is from the people that guessed correctly. Congratulations, Nutan. You win. Email support@harounventures.com. Yeah. All right, cool. And then, Sarthi, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Who you wrote, Chris, is freemium a stable economic model? If so, why? Yeah, that's a great question. So what matters most, pardon me, what matters most for high growth internet companies, especially social media companies, is the number of subscribers they have. And so making the product free for everybody allows you to, get more customers. If all my courses were free, I'd have more customers. And then eventually what happens is kind of like the movie Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. If you get a lot of subscribers, you can charge them. And so if you have like 1 billion subscribers and you charge them a tiny little fee every now and then, you can make a fortune. So the best business models in history in tech are platforms where you encourage subscribers to sign up and you actually charge them a fee in the long run. Now, it can be indirect fees, like on Facebook, for example. Facebook is obviously the biggest social media platform in the world. They don't make any social media content themselves. Their users do. But they make money by charging a fee from advertisers. It's kind of like how Google works as well. You monetize it now, and you get your subs now and monetize it later. And I remember years ago, the founder of Snapchat was up here in the Bay Area meeting with the top venture capital firms. And he was trying to raise money, Evan Spiegel. And a lot of venture capital firms, when they met with them, they're like, that's ridiculous, man. Your business model doesn't make sense. When I take pictures of my kids, that's my son at graduation, that's the COVID mask. When I take pictures of my kids using Snapchat, I don't want to lose the pictures, right? A little bit out of touch VCs, I know. And then a couple of years later, Evan came back to the Valley and met with the same venture capitalists. And he said, remember me? I have 6 million subscribers. And the venture capitalist said, oh my God, that's the best business model ever. And of course, Evan tried to monetize it later. Now, whenever your voice is going, if you do a lot of online stuff like I do or interview, there's a product called Throat 37 that I recommend. I feel like I'm in the damn Truman Show, that great movie from 1998. Give me one sec. Test. A bit better. Hold on a second, guys. Sorry. And before I go live, I always take this as well. It's called Vocal Zone, in case your voice you're losing your voice a bit here, which doesn't happen that often, but it does sometimes. Yeah. All right. I feel great. I always feel better when I sound. Okay, there we go. It's getting better. I'm getting better. Yeah. I was a little verklempt there, but I'm better now. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. So I don't see any more questions. Let's wrap up the call now. So I want to thank you all for your time. This was a really fun weekly call. If you don't subscribe to my vlog and you want to subscribe now, please click like. It helps me out a lot. My marketing team is telling me to do this. They're right. Like this video, share, subscribe, and all that great stuff. If you subscribe to my vlog, I'll see you every day at 9 a.m. because that's when my vlogs drop. I'm an old man trying to be cool. It's not working, I know. But at least I have my own anime now, my own emoji. And if you don't subscribe to my blog, I'll see you next Thursday, and every Thursday at 8 a.m. Please go to harounventures.com and check out my courses and MBA program. I've got a 30-day, 100% money-back guarantee. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain. I really put my heart into the program, and I hope you enjoy it as well. And so God bless y'all. And I end every single week with this video, which is life-changing, which I license from the Silicon Silicon Valley Historical Association. Enjoy. Thank you. God bless. See you next Thursday. Thank you.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it, that's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.